Good morning, everybody. Ben and Woods, 97.3 The Fan. Such a pleasure to be here with you this morning. Does feel we're getting into that weird time of year where it is a little bit groundhoggy, a little bit Groundhog Day every day. And that's just to be expected. So hopefully it's not that for you. Hopefully you still enjoy listening to the program. If it's any indication by our YouTube numbers, then you definitely do. Because it's just been crazy. You can watch us on YouTube at youtube.com. Search Ben and Woods. You'll see our little page up there, and you can weigh in on the chat. Certainly, we're available to you via the telephone here or via Twitter. There's a Twitch stream for Ben and Woods. There's all kinds of ways that you can get us inside of you every single morning. And, man, we got some dedicated tier ones that lock in at 6 and don't leave till we're done at 10. And it's just amazing to me that happens. So thank you guys for your loyal support, and we love you very much. I'm Woodsy. That's Paul Reindl, the executive producer. Good morning, Paulie.
Hey, how are you?
Great. Ben Higgins, your friendly neighborhood sports anchor, joins us as well. Benjamin, how are you?
I'm good. You just triggered a memory for me when you said different ways that we can get inside of you. I thought for you, Darvish, for a second.
That brings up a lot of memories for me, too.
And I realized I had a dream last night.
I've had those dreams.
I've had those dreams,
Darvish. Well, I was actually
haven't had that dream.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember it now. It was pretty vivid and realistic. For some reason, we were doing a live remote on the Las Vegas Strip. It was you, me, and Paulie.
Sexy.
But Adam was there, and you, Darvish, was there with us as well. And I remember, for some reason, we had climbed down the steps from the hotel to get down toward the Strip. And you, Darvish, jumped over the wall. I followed him. Adam wouldn't go. He wanted to go the long way around, but I just followed you. I trusted him.
You hopped the fence.
I did. I hopped the fence with you because I trusted him. Where he led, I wanted to go. So I followed him, and then we set up the remote, and he was there with us. And I don't know why I had that dream. What do you think that dream means? I don't remember ever having any other dreams about you, Darvish, before, but this was just last night.
Put your light on, number one. We want to see your pretty face. Number two, I think that you trust you, Darvish. And I think that's what it boils down to.
Felt like it.
I think you trust him.
I mean, it felt pretty clear what the message was there. I trust you, Darvish.
Here's the other thing. I don't think you trust Adam.
Maybe not.
I think Adam might represent that snake in the Dodgers dugout.
He wasn't trying to lead me astray necessarily. I don't think he trusted you, Darvish, the way I trusted you,
But he
Darvish.
also didn't go with you, which means that he doesn't have your back. That's kind of what I would read into it. And based on recent events, you never know. Does he have your back?
Hey, can we just go up to the crosswalk?
Hey, I don't think this is very smart to be jumping fences out here.
There's a pedestrian bridge 2 blocks away.
I'm not paying for any sort of trespassing or jaywalking ticket. I can do entire hours of just being Adam. It really delights me to no end. Hey, there's a crosswalk up there, you. I don't want to get in trouble from the
personally,
Padres.
I lean more toward the Adam. I don't want to pay for a crosswalk violation or a jaywalking ticket either. But with you, Darvish, there, I felt safe. Like I could follow him and go, and it would be okay. And it was. It really was.
When we did that bit of Adam in Vegas, I almost peed my pants. But he was like, hit me.
Can I split those?
15 again.
Re-raise. Throws his chips in. I'm not kidding you guys. Every single conversation I have with that man these days that's what he sounds like. It's the sigh first. I'll call him. Hello. Hi. Hi. You need something? Yeah. What's up with this email, right? So whatever. Or if he calls me, I'm like, hello. Am I bothering you? I'm like, stop.
Yeah, I always. Hey, do you have a second?
Never.
Now, to be fair, I think you have him a little on edge sometimes. That may be more just for you, the sigh, than me. I don't feel like I get the sigh quite as heavily as you get the sigh.
I feel like he should just start putting it in his emails. Like, just in asterisk, sigh. Hey, everybody.
You know how like everybody's signature is always like
Yeah.
regards,
Regards.
or
His is
best wishes, comma. His is just sigh, comma. Adam Klug.
Dude, he kills me so much, man. He kills me, man. He absolutely kills me.
Oh, man.
He's something else, that dude. He is something. He is something else. Split. Gambling Adam will never not make me laugh, dude.
10 on red.
They spin the roulette wheel and you just double zeros. Nobody ever bets that. It just kills you. Just kills me every time. Yeah, that's where we're at today. Hey, I wanted to wish a very happy birthday to my beloved mother-in-law, Susie Nancaro Glenn. I don't know how old she's turning today. I would not even attempt to guess. It doesn't matter. She's very young at heart. And came over yesterday and said hello. And she's awesome, man. Great. You couldn't ask for a better mother-in-law. Didn't always think it was going to be that way. Did not think that she and I were going to be pals for life.
You weren't good enough for her daughter.
No.
At the very beginning.
No question. I'll never forget the first time I met her, ever. She put me in the, literally backed me into a corner. And I'm in the corner. And she is reading me the riot act. Just crushing me.
Well, she had the tough job of also, filling the role of the dad, too.
Right.
Because of, a tragic passing of her first husband, Lauren Nancaro.
Yeah.
So she had to be like the tough, okay, I got to make sure that this guy who wants to, date and ask for my daughter's hand in marriage is gonna be good enough for her and take care of her.
That's exactly right. So she absolutely, me and her years ago would bang heads, and now when I see her, it's just such a different feeling and a different vibe, and I love her very much, and she loves me, and it's a really nice feelings. Mother-in-laws can be tough, man. Mother-in-law, the in-law scene can be a little bit dicey, at times for a lot of people, but I got lucky, man. I got a really, really good one. She's very kind, very generous. My kids, she came over last night for 5 minutes, and Bo just got back from soccer practice, and she's like, okay, I love you guys. I'll see you on Saturday. And Bo's eyes just filled with tears. And I'm like, what's the matter? He's like, I don't want Gaga to leave. Like, they just adore her. So that obviously helps. And so, yeah, happy birthday, Susie. We love you. And I'm sorry that you married a Dodger fan. She did. My father-in-law, Scott, who's the greatest guy of all time, he's a Dodger fan. So now I call her a Dodger lover. And Hannah says she's not a Dodger lover. She's she's a Dodger lover. And I said, there's shades of gray there.
Dodger lover squared.
Filthy Dodger lover. She's not a Dodger lover. She's a Dodger lover. I said, all right, I guess I'll give you a little pass there.
That is fair.
But happy birthday.
Traditionally, over the years, better with moms or dads?
Me?
Yeah.
I've never had my first wife's dad had passed away, and my second wife's dad had passed away. Maybe that's a character. Maybe that's something that I'm seeking. I don't know. Deep psychological scene here.
Interesting.
But I always, Ben, you knew Lauren. He probably wouldn't have liked me, but then I would have grown on him.
You definitely would have grown on him, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
I
Just
think,
like I grew on her.
I think pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would have gotten along with him, but I get along famously with my father-in-law. So I do okay with both, but I think I've always been better with
you
moms.
never would have bonded over his, his farming love of the earth side, but he also had a wicked sense of humor, and I think you would have appreciated that. He would have appreciated yours, and you guys would have done really well.
I think so too. And but I think the moms, I've always done better with moms.
Yeah.
Because if you're a
Which
dad,
is weird. I think
if you're a dad and I come knocking,
you know why. You know what's going on.
This will shock you. But the moms and dads always really loved me. The girls weren't necessarily quite as into me as the parents always were. I really could win over parents quite easily.
I swear to God, dude, if you had a daughter and Ben showed up, you're like, and you look up to the heavens and you're like, what did I do? Thank you so much, Jesus, for blessing me. I mean, come on. He's a dream.
I don't necessarily think it actually helps you when both the parents are saying, you should really see this guy more often.
Oh, it kills you. It absolutely murders you.
At that age, it really is not any points in your favor when the parents are completely on your side. So,
because I think when Hannah's mom, I think initially didn't like me, that drove Hannah closer to me, So it was a good move. So thank you for that. But man, that is so good. Mr. Buddha Wolf is in our chat, and this is funny. The Dodger fans are having a rough time. They don't know what we do. So he said just now, "Why are y'all streaming? You lost a couple of days ago, buddy. We're a radio show. We're on the radio."
5 days a week.
5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 a.m. Right here on 97.3 The Fan. You can find it on your FM dial. There's an Odyssey app. But you found us on YouTube. We're not a podcast, buddy. We're an actual radio show that also streams what we do.
Technically, we don't have to talk about the Padres at all.
We can talk about whatever we want.
For 4 hours. We talk about whatever we want every single day of the week.
He liked to shout out. Shout out, Mr. Buddha Wolf. I still want to do a Dodger fan spelling bee. If I can get 4 or 5 of you together to call in, I want to do a Dodger fan spelling bee. And I'm going to start with words like lose and things like that. Sack. How would you spell sack? How would you spell lose? What if I said they are? How would you contract that? What does that sound like? I really, really want to do that. The other guy yesterday, Dino, was like, these guys only have 6,000 subscribers. I'm like, buddy, we're not a YouTube show. We're a radio show that goes on YouTube. So you gotta, if you're gonna run the smack, you gotta know what you're talking about. We're not just a podcast or a YouTube feed. All right.
I think most of our audience is aware of that. But welcome to the newcomers for sure.
I do
want
want
to. You consume.
Trust me, we've joked about only being a Padres show.
I do want to do.
Season ends. All right, we'll see you guys in February.
That would be great if we were just off now until fantasy camp. Would be the best thing ever. I want to set up the Dodger fan spelling bee and crown the king of the Dodger fans.
Can we do that at the holiday extravaganza?
In a heartbeat.
Get them down here.
Dodger fan spelling bee. You have to wear your full gear, and we know
Put
you
little
will.
Signs around their neck like they do in the real spelling with like their number and everything.
Literally nothing would make
How
me
great
happy.
of a host of a spelling bee would Ben be?
Oh my God! Oh my God! And I'll be the one that just talks smack the whole time. I want to do this. I want to do Dodger fan spelling bee at the Christmas and holiday extravaganza.
I mentioned the holiday extravaganza because now that baseball season's wrapping up, that's kind of the next big thing.
Yeah, no question.
On the Ben and Woods docket.
Yes.
Got to start thinking about that.
Got to start working on that. Don't forget, somebody's got a birthday coming up very soon. We will not be forgetting it this year as we did last year. All right, so we got we have a show today that we're going to do for the next 3 hours and 45 minutes. Had an article that came out yesterday that was really interesting and I think thought-provoking that I'd like to discuss. And let's go.
Absolutely.
Let's get after it.
We'll set the menu when we come back and off and running on a Thursday, a roundtable free Thursday. Remember Silver Linings?
Man, Silver
Linings from earlier in this week?
I love it.
There's the one for Woods today. Just a 4-hour show with Ben and Woods. We'll check traffic with Kelly Danick, and then we will be right back here on San Diego's #1 sports station, radio show station, 97.3 The Fan.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
Best wishes to Luis Arraez, National League batting champion. 3 straight batting titles for Luis Arraez, who posted on his social media accounts, underwent thumb surgery yesterday to repair the ligament, the torn ligament that he had been playing with since, I believe, June 25th. I don't think maybe we appreciate enough the fact that he won a batting title with a torn ligament in his thumb. That's not an easy injury, probably, to play through, especially to bat through against major league caliber pitching.
Sure.
Guys are throwing, triple digits with nasty stuff.
Sinker in on your hands.
With wooden bats that, are going to sting over and over and over again. So
you saw it. You saw it if you watched it all this season. It seems like the ones maybe he barely ticked, or the ones he swung and missed on, he would do the let go. You're like, oh my God, I bet that is so painful to go out there and try to battle through that every day. dude, it was, I don't know what the future holds for Luis Arraez, but the guy's in there. He's got his arm in a cast and still does the half heart on his head, which was just the sweetest thing. And wrote a really nice note about how much he enjoyed being a Padre. And, Donovan Solano did the same thing.
I saw that as well, yeah.
Yeah, it's that's not something that I saw a lot of Padre fans saying, this feels different. This is a lot of guys really, really loved their time here last year. So I can certainly understand wanting to run a lot of these guys back and do it again.
That's one of the topics as we set the menu for the show today a little bit later in our 7 o'clock hour. I think we'll talk about Luis Arraez, his value, whether the Padres should be exploring a long-term contract, some sort of extension. They do control his rights for one more season, but we'll talk about that. In our next segment, I do want to get into something I threw in our promo yesterday after you left, Woods, and that is what the Padres starting rotation is going to look like next year, minus Joe Musgrove, who, of course, is on the mend himself following Tommy John surgery in the early stages of recovery. But, reportedly everything went well, and he is targeting a return, obviously, by 2026, but they're going to have to get through next season without Joe. So, beyond Dylan Cease, Michael King, and Yu Darvish, presumably, what does the rest of that starting rotation look like? Are there any targets the Padres should be looking at in the offseason? So we'll talk about that coming up at 6:35 this morning. Obviously, we'll get into Game 3 of the National League Championship Series. Last night, the Dodgers now taking a 2-1 series lead. Rob Manfred getting more and more excited by the day as his lifelong dream of the Dodgers-Yankees World Series gets closer to fruition and reality. And as much as we would like to think as diehard baseball fans, as Padres fans who watch baseball in a smaller market, that it shouldn't matter, that if the teams have good players and good stars and play good baseball, shouldn't matter what cities they come from. It does. Ratings are through the roof, and one of the reasons is you have 2 New York and 1 Los Angeles team in the playoffs, and ratings have been extremely good for Major League Baseball this postseason, including the Padres-Dodgers game, which were setting, recent records for most viewership for a division series. So, yeah, they're not dumb. You may not like Major League Baseball's, commissioner's office and some of the things they do. They're not dumb, though. They know what drives the needle when it comes to TV viewership, and they have to be pretty pleased with what they're seeing right now.
Yeah, I would imagine they are.
Make no mistake, they'd rather have the Yankees than the Mets as the New York team.
No question about it. No question. Yankees are I would say well on their way, but
it's not just strictly market.
Mets Guardians doesn't do nearly as much for them as Yankees Dodgers, or even Yankees Mets. I think is like the number 1B in their desire for the matchup that's going to bring in the most eyeballs.
Yankees Mets pretty much wipes out the West Coast.
A little bit.
There'll be some watchers, but I think if it's Yankees, Mets, I'll watch. I love baseball. I can't get enough of baseball. I will never not watch baseball, no matter who's in it. If it was Royals, Marlins, I'd be watching it like crazy. I love it. I love the playoffs.
It is strange. I've found myself watching less once the Padres got eliminated.
Yeah.
Maybe just needing a break a little bit. It's different. If the Padres finished in 4th place, never made the playoffs, I'd probably have watched a lot more playoff games, especially the NLCS, the ALCS. It was a gut punch.
I can't say it doesn't sting when I watch. It stings, but I look at the television and I go, well, what are my options right now? What am I going to watch? But it always falls back to baseball for me. I am a fan of the game, and I love big moments. I love watching teams, dominate, except for the Dodgers. Even they absolutely dominated last night, which was kind of a boring game. But yeah, unless you're a Dodger fan, it was kind of a boring game. And there's been a couple of those in this round of the playoffs so far. So hopefully we get some exciting baseball in the next couple of days. You'd love to see the Guardians be able to scratch one out, get back. You'd love to see the Dodgers tie or the Mets tie that series and see make these things go 6-7 games.
Yeah, I'm with Woods. I've been watching, but I understand what Paulie's saying. When your team is out of it in, August or September, you kind of stop paying attention to your own team a little bit, and then by the time the playoffs roll around, you're ready for some meaningful, exciting baseball. When you are just inundated with meaningful, exciting baseball for months and months, including the playoffs, which ramp it up even more, when that's taken away from you, the other games don't feel as meaningful and as exciting anymore.
Sure.
Like they would if your team had been out of it for a while.
Well,
So I get
unless
that.
you're a big hate watcher, like I am, and I love to hate watch. So it's almost sometimes better than watching your own team because you can still go to bed at night, and you're not filled with anxiety all day long. You know, it's like, ooh, let's see these two teams beat the crap out of each other. And make no mistake, I'm not a Met fan either, man. I heard some people in their fan base and players on their team I absolutely loathe. So it's been interesting to see. How it's been managed, and always interesting to see what stars step up in the postseason and which ones don't.
It's a Throwback Thursday, which means we'll play Real or Fake for a concert prize coming up at 7:10. That's our original game from the very beginning when we would give away prizes. We played a little Real or Fake. It is a Padres-themed category today. You'll have an opportunity to call in and win coming up at 7:10. Those Orville Peck concert tickets. Don't do this at 7:20. In the second half of the program, it is still Thursdays for Eno Sarris throughout the postseason. We'll get our Smart Baseball segment with the Athletics talented and brilliant writer Eno Sarris, who's joined us, each week throughout the season, talk about the playoffs. Paulie's got headlines in the Reindl Report. We will bring back our football threesome now that the Padres playoff run is over. You've got a Thursday night game tonight. We'll look ahead at the weekend in the NFL as well.
So ready.
Completely ready.
Totally
for some football.
100% ready.
But we'll start.
Set your fantasy lineups.
We'll start. I'm playing you in fantasy
Me
this week.
v. Ben this week.
I looked at my lineup and I go, bye, injured, and I go,
I thought you had a GM that was running your team.
I thought I did too. I need to speak with my general manager about
hot seat.
Your son.
About roster preparation for weeks, especially big games like when I'm taking on Woods.
Right.
That I want to make sure I don't have a bunch of projected zeros in my lineup.
Unbelievable.
We'll start, though, by looking at the Padres pitching rotation for next season. We'll do that when we come back. It is Thursday. It's Ben, Woods, and Paul. We're very glad to have you with us this morning on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Well, clearly, you never want to lose a key starting pitcher for an entire season. So Padres are, their work is cut out to try to replace Joe Musgrove. I will say, though, as we kind of dive into what the pitching rotation looks like, in my mind, it's not a horrible year to have to pick up maybe a free agent rental for a year. With the names that are going to be on the free agent market or expected to be on the free agent market, there's some options out there. There's internal options. There's also external options for the San Diego Padres and what that pitching rotation is going to look like, Woods. We're going to discuss it here coming up. This segment of Ben and Woods is brought to you by the roofing professionals at Extreme Roofing of San Diego. Mother Nature is unpredictable, and so is the San Diego rain. Don't wait until your roof suffers damage. Call Extreme Roofing of San Diego to prepare your investment from catastrophe. Schedule your roof inspection now, 619-334-ROOF, 619-334-ROOF, or online at extremeroofs.com. That's roofs, not roofs, is the plural of roof.
Is it roofs?
Yeah.
I thought it was roofs.
No, it's
Roofs.
roofs.
Like
Roofs.
hooves.
Roofs.
Roofs.
Hooves.
Hooves.
It behoofs you.
Behooves.
It behooves you.
Yes.
But it's roofs.
Okay. I'll take
Not
your word for it.
roofs. All right, we'll come back and we'll talk about the Padres pitching rotation right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is brought to you by Soapy Joe's Car Wash, saluting our vets with a free car wash on Veterans Day. Well, guys, they finally cleared that crash on northbound side of the 163 at the North 805 connector ramp. Also, stalled pickup truck on West 52 at the North 805. It's over to the right shoulder. And we've got this collision in the North County, northbound 15 before Villa Rancho Parkway. Looks like that could be partially in the HOV lane. At Soapy Joe's Car Wash, we root for our home team of our military. If you're active duty, a veteran, or a military spouse, text BETS to 94333 and claim your free Magic Joe wash at any location on Veterans Day, November 11th. Soapy Joe's is good, clean, fun. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
So, Woods, let's start with the known, and that is presumably the top three in the Padres pitching rotation coming back. Yu Darvish, who's still under his long-term contract extension. Dylan Cease, who has one more year of arbitration remaining and team control. The same as Michael King, who is coming back for one more season of team control. I would imagine, given A.J. Preller can do some things that are unexpected and unpredictable, but I would think the plan is that those three guys will be fronting the Padres starting rotation next season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the only one that you may be able to look at potentially being moved in the offseason is Dylan Cease. It's not that Dylan Cease isn't a good pitcher. It's not that I don't like Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease has some value. He is 29, Ben. I would say he's at the top of his craft right now. Obviously, we did not like what we saw from him in the postseason. It was a real disappointment. That's nowhere near enough to be able to cut a guy loose. That said, is he a guy you want in your rotation for the next 7 years? And I do feel like he will command some sort of Joe Musgrove-esque type, maybe more deal. And I don't know that the Padres should dole that out to, another guy that's going to be 35 when his contract ends.
If they are only going to extend one of the two between
King.
Dylan Cease and Michael King.
It's Michael King.
And I tend to agree with you that Michael King is probably the priority. You'd be foolish not to at least listen for offers. With a guy who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and if you don't have serious plans to bring him back, well, what value could you get from another playoff contender that is desperately in need of starting pitching? And there will be teams like that out there. Again, there are a lot of options on the free agent market as well, so I don't know if teams would be willing to fork over, young pitching, talented prospects. But Dylan Cease is a premium strikeout guy in a league that values strikeout-type pitchers, and he's that. Now, the Padres value it highly as well. I expect him to be in the Padres starting rotation likely at the start of next season. But you have to at least acknowledge the possibility that A.J. Preller could take phone calls and, Dylan Cease could be someone who's discussed. So
the value that he brings, Benny, obviously he made every start. Made 33 starts last year for this team that needed it. His ERA was 3.47, which these days, bro, that's fantastic. Threw a no-hitter. We know that. struck out 224 batters. That's all great. This organization, I think, you look at what other organizations do and how they handle their business, and it's more of it's the big boy moves that we've talked about. Like, as much as you like him, as much as you think, maybe you should bring him back, he's going to cost so much cash. And I believe he's a Boris guy as well, if I'm not mistaken. So he's one of those guys where you're like, I can't pay this guy $25 million a year for the next 5 years. It's probably not in the budget, and it's probably not the smartest thing to do. But you could absolutely start him in the rotation, Ben, and see what happens. You could here's another thing you could do. You could just pitch Dylan Cease all year and let him walk in free agency. You could get 220 innings out of Dylan
Absolutely.
Cease and let him walk. That doesn't make We've
seen the Padres do that with other pitchers and players before. And since they
doesn't make you a bad guy.
Since they expect to be playoff contenders, it's not even the worst strategy, but you do have to at least look and see, potentially what a market might be. So beyond those three, the internal options, I think you have to start with the two guys who were the internal options this season, Matt Waldron and Randy Vasquez, as your kind of first two in-house guys that you'd be looking at to making more starts. Matt Waldron, who of course was so valuable for the Padres for several months of the season, kind of ran out of gas, was not part of the rotation except on the last day of the season when he came back. I don't know what it looks like, next season for Matt Waldron. I would like to think that he can come back, and if he can be the pitcher that he was for the better part of 2024, then absolutely there would be a place in the starting rotation for Matt Waldron. Do the Padres trust him? Do they trust that knuckleball, that he can use it in the right mix and right percentages to get major league batters out?
Yeah,
if he can, then Matt Waldron could be one of those guys in the starting rotation.
And what can Matt Waldron improve on, next year? The stuff that I heard from Matt Waldron from them and from guys like Joe Musgrove, we talked about this a few weeks ago, them telling him, bro, you belong. You're good. Like, we're counting on you. You're throwing huge innings for us. And Matt Waldron saying he never really felt like he was elite or belonged. Like, what can he work on in the offseason to get better? He seems like a guy that is willing to do whatever it takes. So I have no problem, man. Again, knowing full well our roster on August 1st is going to look different than our roster on April 1st because of who our general manager presumably will be. Have a ball, man. Let's get it figured out. That's what the early part of the season is for. You're not going to be the only team that's figuring out your 5-man rotation, at all. You still got Brito. You still got Vasquez. You've got, there's always the potential of doing something different with Morahone. You still have arms. And what you were able to accomplish this season should give you a lot of trust that they'll figure it out at some point. And if you're not getting the job done, you're not going to be on the team.
I think clearly with Waldron, dialing in the knuckleball, as consistently as possible with no spin, letting it do its thing. You will have some inconsistent results, as any knuckleballer does, but they want him to up the usage of that. If he's going to be in the rotation, they don't want him to be a 20% knuckleball guy.
Like a 70%.
They want him to be like 50, 60, 70% knuckleball guy. Maybe
be it all the way, right?
One secondary breaking ball pitch, if you can add a little sharpness to,
to a sweeper
or something, and be basically those two guys with, an up in the zone fastball to keep guys honest every once in a while. That's, I think, the path to the most effectiveness for Matt Waldron.
I am down to load Waldron's cauldron again and see what happens. And because, again, when it was on, and when he hit that little streak, not little streak even, the really solid run that Matt Waldron had for this team was so beneficial and so kept us so afloat and above water and in it. This season does not look the same without Matt Waldron in it. It just doesn't. So I think he did a great job. People suggesting stuff in the chat. Sure, man, fire away. Sean Reynolds to the rotation.
Let's start with Randy Vasquez, because
okay.
I think he's option 1B at this point. He did a lot of good stuff. Inconsistent, but he is a pitcher who is kind of heading into his prime now at like 26. Showed some good things at the end when they needed him to make some spot starts. Last start was really, really good at the end of the season. He needs to continue to develop, but Padres have done a good job with Ruben Niebla of continuing to develop pitchers. And if he makes at all a step forward, he's absolutely a viable starting rotation member as well. So just with those, you've got a 5-man rotation. Now, you need more than 5 over the course of the season. So, yeah, who are some of the other guys that are currently on the roster that you could project? Sean Reynolds, don't know how many innings you could ask out of that guy as he transitions from being a position player to a pitcher. I see him more as a bullpen option. Adrian Morejon clearly has done starting in the past in the minor leagues. You could once again think about trying to, stretch him out and make him a left-handed starter, although I think he has a lot of value as a left-handed reliever at this point for the San Diego Padres. I look at a guy, Brian Hoeing, as someone who already has pitched multiple innings. Does he have enough of a mix to face, the lineup 3 times through and be a starting pitcher? I'd imagine that is also part of the discussion right now of in-house options for the Padres.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Did you pull up a list of potential free agents?
I did.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, so it is actually a pretty deep list. There are enough guys out there that I'd be surprised if the Padres didn't land on at least 1 or 2. At the very top of the market, the big time looking for a big free agent contract guys. We'll start with Corbin Burns. You've got Garrett Cole, who's going to be hitting free agency and looking really sharp.
Is he? He's got an opt-out.
He's got an opt-out. This is according to Baseball America. These are who they expect will probably be free agents based on what they imagine. Some of these, like Blake Snell is on their list, another potential opt-out guy, but expected to opt out.
Scherzer, Verlander, Garrett Cole, Blake Snell at the top.
Max Fried.
5 years ago, it's a really, really good class.
Max Fried is... They don't have they have Scherzer at the 25th to 30th on their list, as a potential, late season rental. But Max Fried, Freddie Peralta, Jack Flaherty, of course, was a rental for the Dodgers and expected to hit free agency. I would imagine they'll try to lock him up. Another trade deadline guy, Yusei Kikuchi, is going to be a free agent. Nathan Eovaldi, who was so good for the Rangers in their World Series run not that long ago.
There's arms, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of arms.
I mean, this is, if you want to go deep, Sean Manaea, who's coming looking to cash in off a really great season for the Mets.
Walker
Severino,
Buehler.
Walker Buehler, Michael Wacha could opt out again from his contract.
Martin Perez.
Nick Martinez, if you're looking for old friends and reunions, could opt out of his contract.
Jeez.
Shane Bieber, if you're looking for guys coming off injuries.
That worked with Ruben before.
Bounce back seasons. Jordan Montgomery could opt out again, or he may just opt in and keep his money with the Diamondbacks. Robbie Ray is a former, Cy Young Award winner, right?
Yeah.
Merrill Kelly, really good pitcher. I mean, there's a lot of names on this list. Injury bounce back guys like Frankie Montas. And then, as you mentioned, there's also... 1-year guys, Lucas Giolito, Michael Lorenzen, Jose Quintana, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, if they want to pitch again another season. There are plenty of names to go around, and that will likely drive down the prices on some of those guys. Now, you'll probably have to wait, until February, until guys are getting a little bit desperate and going, all right, I think I need to take the best offer. I think the Padres are well positioned, though, in that sort of situation. It's an attractive place to go play. People like playing at Petco Park, and if you're
Pitchers
looking
like it, yeah.
If you're looking at a place like, hey, I'm going to go 1 year somewhere, rebuild some value. I know they've got Joe Musgrove coming back in 2026, but if I have a good season at Petco Park, good pitchers park, got good defense behind me, got a good team to go play, and a good atmosphere in a great city, yeah, I think the Padres will be definitely an attractive destination for some of these free agent pitchers this offseason.
Some big names out there.
Absolutely.
And not only the big names, it's the names that you can look at and go, okay, yeah, that guy could absolutely round out the back of our rotation. Or I just feel like, Benny, I don't know if you're like me, but I feel like there's probably going to be 10 of these guys sitting there looking for a job.
I think so, too.
You know what I mean?
I've seen that.
Like when spring training starts, if you could be, if you have a target and you want that you don't think you're going to have to overpay for, obviously you're going to go get it. But you do get the feeling there's going to be 5-10 starting pitchers, 5-10 decent relief arms out there as well. There's a ton of guys.
Yeah, after Corbin Burns and, if Blake Snell opts out, after they get their deals, Max Fried and Freddie Peralta, I think there's going to be a lull then. You'll see like those deals probably winter meetings, December, get those done. And then there'll be that dead period for like a month and a half where no one's going to overpay. Everyone's going to be kind of waiting out the rest of the pitching market.
Yeah, gun shy.
And then as, end of January kind of hits and spring training gets closer, you'll start seeing guys signing and making decisions as we get closer to spring training.
The other thing that you could potentially look at is there's a few pitchers that did end up waiting to sign until late, and they didn't play well. They did not pitch well at all. So that kind of works in your favor if you're on AJ Preller's
Will there
side.
be a Nick Martinez out there who just wants to sign quickly, not necessarily break the bank, but just know, like he did with the Reds. He signed. He was like the first guy to sign last offseason, and it wasn't a break the bank deal, but he just wanted certainty.
Get it out of the way.
He didn't want to wait all offseason. He wanted to know where he was going, and he did. And he made his deal. Could you sneak one of those guys in early? Possibly.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Satan's Blowfish, good question here. Is Snell going to get a good or quick deal? I don't know. He still remains to me the world's biggest enigma, and I would love it if he was in our starting rotation next year. But I don't know what he's going to command. I don't know what he's looking for. I got to imagine.
He's walking from 30
He's walking from 30 because he probably wants 4 more years, right? 4 to 5 more years. He really has an opportunity to get one more big contract. And same type of situation in San Francisco. Wasn't ready, didn't have a spring training, was pissed at Boris. They waited too long and had a really crap first half of the season and then was filthy in the second half, as he usually is.
I think I saw it's probably a Bob Nightingale tweet after Snell dominated in the second half of the year. Like, well, not going to have any trouble getting that free agent deal this year.
Are you sure?
He was literally the Cy Young Award
he won
winner
the Cy Young.
last year, and he had trouble getting a deal. And now he's,
dude.
a year older. I don't know if Blake Snell is going to have trouble getting a deal or not. I don't know what has changed between last year and this year. He didn't prove anything other than what he had already proved.
Yeah, he proved that, when he's on, he's one of the nastiest pitchers on the planet.
But he's also probably going to get off to a slow start.
Do you have?
And can you weather that?
Can you mitigate the slow start with getting him into spring training? Like if I'm AJ Preller and I have the money and I want Blake Snell back, I'm making that call. When does free agency start? When can we make the call? After the day after the World Series?
5 days after.
5 days after the World Series.
Yeah.
I say, Blake, we want you back. You'd love it here. Let's go. Because you got to get him in. You got to start putting him through the paces now. The longer you wait with Blake Snell, the worse it's going to be in the first
Still
half.
has Scott Boras as his agent.
Oh, does he?
I don't think he replaced him. So I don't expect a discount deal off the top of the market.
Is he a half-season starting pitcher if you get him in and get him in early?
All right, lots to discuss. We'll continue next year on The Fan. Mets had their chances early in that game yesterday.
Did they?
Could never come through. And in the end,
it doesn't really matter.
Looked a lot like some of the other Dodgers games this postseason. No runs allowed, lots of home runs hit, and an 8-0 win in Game 3 of the NLCS at Citi Field as the Dodgers take a 2-1 series lead. Walker Buehler,
nasty.
While I thought he pitched decently against the Padres outside of that one inning.
Yeah.
It was much, much better yesterday. He got, in just 4 innings, Walker Buehler got 15 swing and miss from the New York Mets. In comparison, against the Padres, 3.
Right.
He had 0 strikeouts against the Padres. He had 6 strikeouts against the Mets. That was a much better version of Walker Buehler. And still, the Mets had their chances. They loaded the bases in the second inning, and they had Francisco Lindor at the plate. I thought maybe the at-bat of the game. Yep. Buehler worked him perfectly. And as much as we are not fans of John Smoltz, he analyzed that at-bat brilliantly. He said, there's 2 holes that you can get Lindor. Fastball's up, and then the hard, sharp breaking stuff down and in. And Walker Buehler just went up, down, and in, up, down, and in. It was a long at bat, got to the full count, and he finished it with the down and in curveball, just as Smoltz predicted. Swung over the top of it, got the strikeout, and that was it really for the Mets. And not that they didn't threaten again, but that was their best chance after the Dodgers had scored a couple of unearned runs off Luis Severino in the top of the second.
That inning,
Gold Glover.
That inning changed everything.
Yeah.
Man. And Francisco Alvarez. Bro, I was texting with Italian Paul, who is our resident Met fan, and I said, look, Francisco Alvarez may end up being a good player one day, but he is the most wheels-off baseball player I think I've seen in a long time. Trying to go yard every single pitch with the bases loaded. Swung so hard he threw his bat. Joe Davis almost lost his mind. I'll play you that audio and don't do this morning. It sounded like somebody unplugged Joe Davis and plugged him back in. It was the weirdest call I've ever heard.
I almost laughed when they put up his career stats with the bases loaded. It was like 0-50 with
nuts.
1 grand slam. Like, well, okay, you absolutely have just swung out of your shoes every single time you've come up with the bases loaded.
Bro, shoot for a knock to the opposite field. The nubber in front of the plate. Yeah, I think a good throw gets him. He didn't make a good throw. I think he got to collect outs there, Sevy, with 2 off of his glove up the middle.
A Gold Glover.
Gold Glover, man. Couldn't get the double play there. Just they didn't hit a ball out of the infield, and it's 2-0. So that's pretty frustrating if you're a Met fan. And then if you're looking at your pitching for the Mets, you can't walk the Dodgers 7 times. You cannot walk Max Muncy 3 times. You cannot. Max Muncy was hitting 200 going into last night's game. If he beats you, he beats you. He ended up hitting a bomb and got another knock too. But
you're not wrong. But the Dodgers sometimes, to their credit, they earn their walks.
Oh, they do. They put together great ABs.
They will foul off the close pitches, and then the ones that are just off the plate, they will spit on.
Yep.
And it's not.
You can't walk Will Smith.
You're not necessarily a bad pitcher. You can throw the ball where you want it to, and you're not trying to throw it over the plate every single time. That's not the goal. You're trying to get guys to swing at pitches that are just off the plate. That's the path to success. The Dodgers last night, though, were doing a really good job of not swinging at those pitches that I thought were good pitches by Mets pitchers, and simply the Dodgers batters were better in terms of their plate discipline last night in a lot of situations. It wasn't that the Mets were just so wild and had no idea where the ball was going. No, it was more the Dodgers batters I thought deserved some credit
and
for how they worked those at-bats.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like they're really good, and it's almost like that's why they were the overall 1 seed. And it's almost like that's why no one ever thought they were an underdog, right? Because they're really good. They have a high payroll. They have really good players. And they have an elite bullpen that just refuses to give up runs. The Mets cannot strike out 13 times in one game. They just can't. And I get it. Like, that's a really, really good bullpen. You had plenty of chances to get to Buehler, but his pitch mix was outstanding. He made an immediate adjustment in the game last night. Went 2-0 to the first batter, and it's like, all right, I'm not pitching out of the windup anymore. Goes to the stretch and starts locating. Severino could not locate. The slider had tremendous tilt and bite. Just couldn't had no idea where it was going. Some of them would go up and in. Some of them would bounce, down and away to a righty. So it was a grind for a Met fan last night.
So it stayed 2-0 until the 6th inning. And the one thing the Dodgers are getting that they could not have anticipated, and is just, October, whatever, is Kike Hernandez with another home run. A guy who, and I tweeted it out last night during the game. He didn't start any of the first 3 games against the Padres. And I would assume if Miguel Rojas was still healthy, that Kike Hernandez would not have seen the field at all. He'd just be sitting there, and the Dodgers wouldn't know.
Getting a pitch hit here and there.
Yeah, maybe, but he had a 2. He came in for 2 at bats and went 0 for 2 in Game 2 against the Padres. Did not start in Game 3, and then of course had the big home run. Homered in Game 1 of this series. Homered again last night. Has been just an October juggernaut throughout his career. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. He's not a power hitter during the regular season, but when October comes around, he has just come up with consistent, great postseason success. And that 4-0 really put the Mets, in a deep hole. And then they added on last couple innings. Shohei hits the just monstrous home run down the line to the top of the upper deck in right field at Citi Field. Max Muncy added on with one more in the 9th. It doesn't really matter unless, of course, you were, 7.5 was an over-under and you were, cheering for more than 8 runs in that game.
Thanks,
but
Max.
Otherwise,
Thank you so much.
Didn't matter much. And the Dodgers end up being the first team, I think they said the first team in playoff history with 3 or more shutout wins by scores of 7-0 or greater in a playoffs.
Crazy.
They've won a lot of these just easily so far this season, and now take that 2-1 lead, and the pressure is really squarely back on the Mets for Game 4 tonight. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will come back after his Game 5 performance against the Padres, make his first start of this series against Jose Quintana at 5:08 on FS1 again today in Game 4 of the National League Championship Series.
Yeah, I'd like to see that series, even up tonight. Quintana's been fantastic. But, you wonder with the Dodgers hitters, what they're doing right now, as locked in as they are. And the Shohei narrative, I've never seen anything like it. I don't even know what else to say about it. His literal inability to hit with the bases empty. He's unable. He has not had one hit with the bases empty.
What's more shocking, his ability to hit with runners on or his inability to hit with the bases empty?
Paulie,
it's insane. His numbers, what are they?
Somebody said
18 for 21 or something like that.
Somebody said he may be known as the only guy on base merchant. They say that guy only hits solo shots, or he's only good with nobody on. He's like a clutch merchant. It's crazy.
It may just be small sample size. I think I did see Mike Petriello point out that he seems to be swinging more wildly when no one's on base, and then when people are on base, he tends to wait out the pitchers and look for his pitches and be a little more disciplined. I don't know why you wouldn't do that in all your at bats, but
I don't know why you wouldn't put him third.
Wait until guys are on base.
What's your lot? Is this the classic?
He went Mookie, Freeman, Ohtani.
Sure, but it's the classic. It's the classic. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You're shutting teams out. Blah blah blah. Shohei, being in the leadoff, you're going to get more ABs. It's going to come around. But I don't know. I mean, I'll take a 3-0 lead, especially on the road. Right on the road, when we get first licks. Give me this dude in the 2 or 3 hole if I'm Dave Roberts. He's moved so many guys around in his order. He's
still a 310 hitter all season long in the leadoff spot, though. And
yeah.
When he does get on, he steals second.
He's 0 for 20. 0 for 21.
I don't think you want Shohei
anomaly.
behind Freddie Freeman on base. You completely neutralize his speed,
running game. Because
Freddie is out there as an anchor on the base paths with his bad ankle. You have to have him ahead of at least Freddie. Now, you could bat Freddie fourth if you wanted.
Sure.
Move Teoscar up. I don't know if that. Then you got 2 righties though, so it doesn't. Their lineup doesn't work that well. Other ways.
Go righty lefty to start. You go Mookie, Shohei.
No, you could bat Shohei second.
Teoscar,
yes, you could bat Shohei second.
I mean, Mookie gets on. He's almost as good as scored with this. What is he? 17 for 20 or something? It's something absurd.
18 for 21 now.
18 for 21 with runners on base. It just is. I've never ever seen
That
anything like it.
Moonshot last night was unbelievable.
I thought it was going to go foul,
I
but he
did-
hit
I
it
did
so
too.
hard and so
I thought
fast
based on his
that he didn't have
reaction, he
time
was
to
going
go foul.
And then I just said, no, he just pimped the ever-loving S out of that ball.
Wasn't a wall
116.
scraper, that's for sure.
116.
We need a contestant for Real or Fake on a Throwback Thursday. If you want to take your chance to win some concert tickets, this is your time to call in. 833-288-0973. Dial us up now. 833-288-0973. We also have the resumption of the American League Championship Series today. Day game 208 on the West Coast. The Yankees and Guardians. Clark Schmidt pitching for the Yankees. Matthew Boyd for the Guardians. Yankees, of course, leading that series 2-0. So, they have blown a 3-0 lead in a 7-game series, one of the very few in the history to do it. But I would think that if they win tonight,
in
baseball, yes, and in the history of sports, one of the very few.
It's a fun
to
week
blow a
for
3-0
your
lead.
old pal Woodsy back then.
Ooh. How bad was that?
Awful. Yeah, I got in a fist fight.
Really?
Yeah. It was horrible.
With who? A Red Sox fan?
At a bar. Yeah.
After which game?
The 7th game, like in the first inning.
You didn't just tuck your tail between your legs and walk out sadly? What else can you do?
It wasn't fun. It's not fun. It was.
they were not just up 3-0, but they were up 3-0 and had the lead in Game 4.
Yeah,
and then the guy up there,
was
Dave
terrible.
Roberts, stole a base. And the rest was history.
It was like nothing you've ever seen because you hadn't, and you haven't since.
I mean, how bad do we feel that the Padres blew a 2-1 lead in a best-of-5 series? Can you imagine?
I can.
Blowing a 3-0 lead in a best-of-7 series when no one had ever done it in the history of baseball before.
It was excruciating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you win the fight?
It was more of a push. It was kind of like a grab each other by the lapels, like each landed a shot in the side of the head, and then it was broken up, and beer bottle was broken. It was.
Were the authorities called?
No, we just left.
Okay.
Nate says, was that in Branford, Connecticut? I think I might have been there. No, that was in Dallas, Texas, at a little bar called the Double Wide, which was really great.
Sounds like a trailer.
It was. It was like
literally
a trailer.
was a trailer.
Double Wide. It was rad.
All right, I see some people calling in. Let's get to today's game. It is time for Real or Fake.
Some are here for the compelling sports talk with Ben and Woods. You can go plow through another donut. It's time for Real or Fake on 97.3 The Fan. Tell the people what they'll win today.
The people, let's go with Ralph, is going to try to win tickets to Orville Peck at the Calcos Credit Union Open Air Theater on Saturday, October 26th. Limited tickets remain at Ticketmaster.com. Well, good morning, Ralph. How are you?
What's up, guys?
How you doing, buddy?
How are you?
All right, real or fake, pretty simple. I'll give you the category, and you just have to separate the real from the fake. Get 4 of the 7 right. Don't go up like 3-0 and then miss the last 4 and lose the series. And we got a Padres-themed one, so Woods can help you out. I feel good about your chances today. Ralph, you ready to play?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I will give you today the full legal name of a Padres Hall of Famer. All you have to do is tell me if I am giving you their real middle name or a fake that I have made up for our game.
Okay.
Ralph, you
Padres
get that?
Hall of Famer.
Padres Hall of Famer. There's only a handful of them.
Okay.
Real or fake middle names. Round 1, Ralph. Real or fake?
All right.
Reindl Leo Jones. Real or fake? Reindl Leo Jones.
Reindl Leo. Real.
He says real.
Yeah.
And that is
Nice.
correct. Randy Jones, middle name of Leo.
On the board.
That is 1 correct. All right, let's go to round number 2. David Archibald Winfield. David Archibald Winfield. Real or fake?
What do you think, Woods?
I'm going to say fake.
He's going to say fake. Ralph, what do you go with?
All right, yeah, let's go with Woodsy.
David
Archibald.
Mark Winfield.
Yes.
Fake is correct.
Oh,
Yes. David Mark Winfield. Great name.
All right, we've got 2 correct. All you need is 2 more.
First big leaguer I ever met was David Mark
Richard
Winfield.
Thomas Williams. Richard Thomas Williams, a.k.a.
Dick.
Dick.
12-year-olds.
Woodsy, what's up?
What was the middle? Dick Thomas
Richard
Williams?
Thomas Williams.
This is a shot in the dark, man. I'm literally flipping a coin here. I'm going to say real.
Ralph, what do you say?
I can't go back-to-back Woodsy, so I'm going to go fake.
He's going to fake.
I like
Why? He
that
went
move.
against you.
I like that move.
And he is correct.
Oh, look at you. Very good.
Richard Hirschfield Williams, not Thomas. All right, that's 3. You are in the Boston Red Sox Yankees position of
Do
a
not
3-0
blow
lead.
this, man.
Don't mess it up. All right, here we go. Round number 4. Trevor Gerald Hoffman. Trevor Gerald Hoffman. Real or fake, Ralph?
Gotta know this one, right?
So I feel like Trevor has an interesting middle name. I feel like the first time I heard it, I went, really? I don't know that it's Gerald, though, but I do know that it's not. I feel like it's not something that's normal. So, Ben, maybe.
Sorry to all the Geralds out there.
Yeah, sorry, Gerald's. It's not a normal name. Gerald's not a normal. Jerry, you go by Jerry. Trevor Gerald Hoffman. It sounds right. I'm going to say real.
Ralph, what do you say?
I know Trevor Hoffman's middle name.
Oh, you do?
It's Trevor Hoffman. So it's William, so I'm going to say fake.
Yeah, good for you. I thought it was
Couldn't
weird.
be more normal of a middle
Totally
name. It's
normal.
William
Who am
Woods.
I thinking of?
Your analysis was just so wrong.
What's Anthony Keith Gwynn?
And Ralph just let you go on and on.
did.
When he actually knew Trevor's
He
middle
did.
name.
I thought it was a weird one.
Ralph, congratulations. You want to play the rest out just to see if you can do the rest? Here we
It was
go.
like that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire clip.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, hey, Dad,
Hey, Dad,
I
just
just want to
calling
let
to
you know
tell you.
I win.
Don't need your help.
Gary Lewis Templeton. Gary
real.
Lewis Templeton. That's real.
Love Gary.
Kenneth-
I love Tempe.
Kenneth Gene Caminetti.
That's real.
That is real.
Yeah, maybe that's the one I was thinking of.
And Kevin Albert Towers.
Fake.
That is fake.
No,
Scott, you guys did really well on that game today.
We're a good team,
Ralph,
buddy.
hang on the line. Paulie will get your information during our commercial break, and we'll send you to the Orville Peck concert. Well played game today.
Yeah, fun one.
I was hoping to lift spirits, and I think we were successful.
Okay.
You know
You've
what?
all forgotten about the playoffs.
I already
now,
feel
right?
better about that
Completely
choke job.
forgotten about
You know,
it.
those 24 innings just dissipated that we didn't score.
Thanks to a good game of real or fake, right?
Yes.
Thanks for that, man.
You're
That's
welcome.
what I needed. It's exactly what I needed.
All right, we'll come back. Don't Do This is coming up next.
I got to play you the Joe Davis call from the. I sent it to you guys last night. Maybe you don't find it as amusing as I did, but when Francisco Alvarez, the bat flew out of his hand, it was like Joe Davis short circuited. It was the funniest
I'll
thing
be
I've
honest,
ever heard.
I get it now, but when you send it over, I was like, yeah, I saw it. Like,
It didn't get you.
what do you mean?
Oh, God.
What am I missing here?
I think if we isolate a couple of parts of it, it'll be better.
And I've got a brand new team that doesn't even start playing for 2 years that is already apologizing
Oh, good.
for something they did yesterday.
Are they here?
No, they're in Boston.
Okay.
That is coming up.
Shaka.
That is coming up next with Ben and Woods after traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
All right, what do you want to lead us off and explain what you were so tickled by last night?
It's got me, man. I don't know how it didn't get you guys, but I was watching the game. Francisco Alvarez comes up in a huge spot and failed again massively. All you need is a single, buddy. I think there were less than 2 outs, and just even lazy fly ball gets you back in the game. And he was up there absolutely taking adult league daddy hacks every single time. And in fact, he took a hack. Took a hack so big, bat flew out of his hands into the net, which is like the most embarrassing thing a hitter can do. You'd rather strike out looking than do that. But Joe Davis, it was like somebody unplugged him and plugged him back in. Listen to his call of that.
You don't have to swing so hard. He didn't cut down at all there. A curve and the bat goes flying out of his hands.
Sounded like Troy Aikman.
Strike one.
Yeah.
Listen.
Good thing for netting. I mean, that's one of the firmest thrown bats you'll ever see in your lifetime.
I mean, you don't love his chances to cut down in this situation. Bases loaded, place going crazy. But my goodness.
Can you isolate his weird, creepy laugh, Paulie, at the beginning? I was like, what is that, dude? It murdered me. He didn't cut down on that one. I was like, what happened to him? He's normally, he's got like the syrupy, kind of sleepy voice, and that for whatever reason, he was tickled pink.
Well, I think he was happy that he kind of called it. He said, okay, one thing to watch for is Arraez overswinging, especially with the bases loaded. And rarely does an athlete provide an announcer with such a great immediate example of what they were talking about.
It just laid me out, dude, when I was watching it last night. So that was an ugly AB, man. That was an ugly AB.
All right, I will go to the NWSL. That's the league the San Diego Wave play in, and they have added a new expansion team that is already coming under fire for their very first ad.
I've seen this.
The new team, BOS Nation FC.
Boston.
In Boston.
Boston FC.
It's the name, the rollout of the name BOS Nation, which is an anagram of Bostonian. They're going to start play in 2026, but they already rolled out their new ad campaign, which is called Too Many Balls. And it was obviously a play on the fact that there are so many sports teams in Boston and men's teams in Boston. This is a women's team that they're going to be supporting, but they already have gotten backlash from different communities who didn't like the message, and it's rare that within the first few days of a new organization you already have to issue an apology, but they did on social media.
Like, this is how we're starting out,
This is how we're starting.
Okay.
They said, let's see, what was it? I got it here. We had hoped to create a bold and buzzworthy brand launch campaign.
You did.
We missed the mark. We fully acknowledge that the content of the campaign did not reflect the safe and welcoming environment we strive to create for all, and we apologize to the LGBTQ plus community and to the trans community in particular for the hurt we caused. We're proud to be part of the most inclusive sports league in the world and committed to upholding the unifying values that define the NWSL and our club. It's funny what offends and what does not, because last night I was watching the baseball game. Maybe you saw this commercial, and Wale, who was sitting next to me, and we had the sound up, and a commercial came on during the Dodgers game. It was for Taco Bell. Did you see this commercial?
Not that I remember.
And we both weren't even paying attention, and then we looked up when the woman, they were eating like Taco Bell chicken cantina tacos, and goes, "Please tell me you're using a condiment." And we both just looked up and
good.
Wait. And I said, "Oh, that's brilliant. That's genius." Like they were showing them you putting the green salsa. Yeah, you better put some green salsa on that taco. Please tell me you're using a condiment.
I like that. That's very clever.
I thought it was very,
Honey,
very
we're
clever.
married. If I don't want to use green
Yeah, what did we get married for then?
Please tell me you're using a condiment.
I don't. If Hannah asked me to use a condiment,
Do you want to have your Mexican food plain? Then you can.
It's not plain. It's
not
just
plain. It's
better.
better. It's just way better.
Without a condiment.
You get it more. You feel it more.
This is more natural.
It's more natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. No condiments.
There's no buffer between you
Correct.
and the
my
taco.
food. Oh wow. Correct.
What?
Yep.
Got it.
Hey.
I'll get the call later. Roastmaster in the chat says, "Too many balls." Same name as Wood's weekly Jacuzzi with Dudes Club. If you're a Roastmaster, you need to get some work. You need to get back to the drawing board.
Need to work a little bit harder.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't have a dude.
You don't have a do this? No. I mean, the other thing that Wale is also. Have you met Wale? Because he came in when you were on vacation.
Maybe in passing once. I think in passing once.
But really good guy. But he is a huge. I'm trying to get him into baseball more. He's definitely more of a basketball and football fan. Loves the WNBA. So we were also watching the game last night. What an unbelievable finish. Sabrina Ionescu of the New York Liberty.
I saw this
with
final
1
shot.
second left.
Oh, man.
Like a 40-foot three-pointer, made like the step step back, step to the side move, and just like Steph Curry style, buried it for the win in a series that was tied 1-1 on the road in front of the other crowd.
She gave the tongue,
Gave
too.
the tongue
It was
out.
sick.
Had not had a good game either. She was like 1 of 8 or something until she made 2 3-pointers late.
Just keep shooting, man.
Just kept shooting. She said, just trust it. Trust my preparation.
Pretty solid call for the final shot.
It was.
8 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter of game 3. 4 seconds. Ionescu will heave and hit! And hit! Sabrina Ionescu with the biggest shot in Liberty history!
Good.
Definitely one of the trickier names to say in sports.
I thought it was Ionescu.
It's Ionescu, apparently.
Ionescu.
Ionescu, not Q. Ionescu. See, I can't even do it.
Q.
Spelled Ionescu.
4 seconds. Ionescu will heave.
Ionescu.
Ionescu will.
Saw that.
She's
shot.
good though, and they are now 1 win away. And I didn't realize this.
It's. Oh, go ahead.
They've never won a title before. New York, Liberty. I was surprised to learn that this is first time they may ever win a title. Lynx have a bunch, but the Liberty have never won.
As weird and I think Paulie may be talking about this in the Reindl Report later, but as weird as Twitter or X or whatever it is now and changes almost daily and sometimes for the worse and sometimes for the better, but mostly for the worse. I don't know what I would do without it because I never would see. I don't watch Sports Center anymore. At the end of the night, like the old sports, I get 99% of my highlights from here, and that's where I saw that shot last night. So I know exactly what you were talking about. I would be lost without it.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, the WNBA has gone to a different level this season from where it's ever been before, and they're capitalizing on it with some good games, and ratings are way up. So congratulations. One more win for the New York Liberty to win the title. And that's Don't and Do This for a Thursday.
That was Don't Do This with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
I want to talk about Luis Arraez. Had his surgery yesterday, but what does his long-term future look like with the San Diego Padres? Woods has an article that he was looking at yesterday that he wants to talk about. We'll get into Luis Arraez and what that might look like coming up next with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Nothing like going in for surgery, Ben, and coming out of surgery, and you've gotten your thumb replaced, and then you open up your Twitter machine, and you see an article from Fangraphs entitled "The Myth of Luis Arraez" by Ben Clemens, who is a very, very smart and very, very talented writer.
What is the myth of Luis Arraez? He's definitely a real person. He's not like a unicorn.
Correct.
You know, he actually does exist. So he's not a myth. Is the myth that he's a valuable baseball player?
The myth is that he's a valuable baseball player. I do feel like. Ben did, when he tweeted out his article, and again, I read it. I don't, again, pretend to understand all of it. Math was never my strong suit. Never. I'm if I was a manager, they'd be like, "Oh, Woodsy, he manages with his gut." There's just no question. So he wrote this and said, "My latest is about what Luis Arraez is and what he isn't. He's a good and interesting player, having a down year, but because he won the batting title, no one will talk about it." That I disagree with, Ben, because I think he's been, even amongst Padres fans, as is the case with every single team. Every team has a few players you look at and the fan base is split on. I think if you're a Dodger fan, you're like, we love Shohei Ohtani, right? Pretty easy. We all agree, Dodger fans, we love Shohei Ohtani. Max Muncy, many Dodger fans wanted him dead this season. But look what he's doing in the postseason. You just never know how it's going to shape out. But the myth of Luis Arraez is that, from what I was able to glean from it, essentially it is, he's a very, very tough guy to face. He doesn't actually help the Padres very much as it pertains to scoring runs, which is the ultimate goal, is to score runs. I read it. I was interested by it. This guy there's a statistic called RE24. And it's quite simple. It takes the run expectancy of an inning before each plate appearance and compares it to the run expectancy afterward, with the difference credited or debited to the hitter. So it's clearly important when you're talking about scoring runs. Men on second and third with 2 outs, a single is way better than a walk, and RE24 tells you that. A 2 RBI single counts for 1.63 runs above average in that situation, while a walk counts for 0.22. Bases empty to lead an inning, a walk and a single are the same, 0.4 runs. That's obvious, right?
This actually does make pretty logical sense.
It does.
I don't know why they haven't done more in terms of that, like the value that your at-bat specifically adds. Like a walk is value. You want to get on.
Sure.
But when you're getting on just to load the bases and, set up a double play with
Juan
one out
Soto did that a
or
lot
force
for
a
us.
runner, it's not nearly as valuable as actually driving in those runs who are on base. So there are different situations have different values.
The best hitters in baseball by RE24 this year, that would be Judge by a wide margin, added a whopping 95.7 runs of value. Shohei Ohtani finished second with 79.6. Juan Soto finished third with 69. Tatis leads for playoff RE24. So obviously these are four players that I would say very clearly are different types of players than Luis Arraez. His RE24 clocked in at negative 3.34 this year. It's not as bad as it sounds, apparently, but WRC Plus has a lower opinion of Arraez than the batting average apologist, singing his praises. Thought of him as above average this year. A hit is better than a walk. So it does beg the question. The one thing I got out of this was, okay, it's value. He's a valuable player in that he's going to get you 200 hits. The timing of those hits are important, right? So I think there's a case to be made that Luis Arraez is valuable to the San Diego Padres if he's not hitting leadoff. Does that make sense?
Does his value analytically get a little bit diminished by the way he's used by the team?
Potentially.
But is it more valuable, as you're saying, because he can drive in runs, but you're also...
He can put the ball in play.
He
doesn't strike out.
But if you have 2 or 3 runners on, what he's almost never going to do is hit the home run that brings them all in. Are you taking at bats away from someone who actually could hit a 3-run home run or a grand slam and hurting your team that way?
There's the rub. But, he bats with runners on base less than the average hitter, which is not really his fault. You can only do what you're supposed to do in the situation in which you come up.
You can't control what happens in the at-bats before you.
He bats with the bases empty far more than the average hitter, and those singles just don't help as much as you think. Extra base hits are the true run-scoring currency.
So I'll agree. A single with nobody on, leading off an inning or nobody on, a single and a walk are absolutely identical in terms of baseball. There's no difference between a bases empty single and a walk. In that sense, on-base percentage is much more important than batting average. You'd rather have a guy who hits .230 with a .350 OBP than a guy who hits .320 with a .340 OBP.
So
even though one is a batting champion and the other is a .220 hitter, the .220 hitter is actually more valuable with the bases empty because they get on base more. Correct?
Correct. So this year, he really went down in extra base hits. He batted 55 more times than he did last year and accumulated 4 fewer extra base hits than he had last year. Now, what this article doesn't mention is the shredded ligament in his thumb, which I think is important for context. It doesn't excuse anything, though, right? Like if you're in there playing and you're taking your 4 or 5 ABs a game, then yes, like you're clearly well enough to be on the field, then we have to judge your metrics accordingly. You can't say, well, he did this, but he was hurt, so obviously when he's healthy, he's going to hit more extra base hits next year. I don't know that that's going to be the case. So what it comes down to for me, and this is that inner thing that I wrestle, is at a very base level, I look at it and I go, all right, is 200 hits for a player in 162 games ever a bad thing? I think the answer is undoubtedly no. No, it's not. I want a guy. It's great to have a guy that I can count on for 200 hits a season. If I feel like the more hits he gets, the better chances we have to win, right? Is he being deployed in the right area of the batting lineup? I don't know. That's probably very arguable. I think you could make a case for him to hit somewhere else in this lineup. But I saw somebody, I think it was our buddy Shirtless Whitson, really smart baseball fan too. He said yesterday, look, he's a good hitter, but he's not suited for Petco Park. And I do tend to disagree here. The type of hitter for Petco Park, really year-round, is somebody that can hit the gaps. And he is a guy that can hit the gaps. Now, he's not going to split the gaps every single time, but him getting on at Petco Park, and he actually didn't hit all that well at Petco Park. That could be a symptom of new team, new sight lines, all of it. Like, all of that stuff matters. He actually hit better on the road for us. But for me, I want a guy that is an elite hitter. Anytime I can get an elite hitter, I want it. And by hitter, I mean, I guess I'm just saying a guy that can hit singles is good with me. There is a spot for him in my lineup because it is so flipping hard to do. And he's one of the best at it. So I think he's valuable. I don't know if he's $14 million valuable.
All right, well, I think that's the question.
That's the big question.
Because all of these things, while very interesting, are well known by front offices around the league.
100%.
They've done this analysis probably deeper than we could ever possibly do on the radio or even in an article or fan graphs or anything. They know the analysis. The question now is, what does it mean to the Padres in terms of what they're willing to pay Luis Arraez fairly into the future if they want to keep him on the team? And we're going to talk about that right after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
This traffic report is fueled by locally and veteran-owned Sedano Ford in La Mesa. Drive on over to Sedano Ford. Guys, not seeing much relief on our roads this morning. Got a crash on westbound 54 before National City Boulevard. Those vehicles are over to the right shoulder. Cordell traffic cam shows a collision on northbound 805 before the 54. They're trying to move that into the center divide. In the North County, westbound side of the 56 before El Camino Real, crash over the right shoulder. And we still have this accident northbound 15 past the 76. Looks like that may be in the clearing stage. Boo! San Diego, please have a listen to this bone-chilling deal. The 2024 Ford Escape ST could be yours for just $200 a month. Don't let this offer vanish before it's too late. Sedano Ford, local, veteran-owned, and terrifyingly good deals. For more details, visit SedanoFord.com if you dare. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Line to center field, a base hit. Wade's coming around from second. Here comes the throw. He will be safe. Welcome to San Diego. Luis Arraez. Walk-off base hit. Padres win it.
I know that I, as a fan, felt pretty good when Luis Arraez was up in a big situation, and we knew we'd like to see someone hit a line drive here. You felt really good about the chances of that actually happening, and had the walk-off, had 4-hit games, had a lot of big moments for the San Diego Padres. The question now, Woods, is what should the Padres be willing to pay him? He is going into arbitration, his last year of arbitration this year. And I got into a Twitter conversation with Clark Farenthold, came in the studio.
Great kid.
Good Padres.
Smart dude.
Fan, good analysis. So he said, a couple of thoughts on Luis Arraez. I like the idea of extending him. He's a good clubhouse fit, fits the Padres' offensive identity to a T. That said, in my opinion, that extension should not exceed $7 to $7.5 million average annual value.
Well, it feels like you'd do that in a heartbeat.
Well, I think the Padres probably would love to do that. Here's the problem. In arbitration, his estimated worth is close to $15 million. I mean, he got 12 last year, and he lost his arbitration case.
Yeah, and Miami picked up almost all of that.
Yeah, he's going to get a raise off of that this year. So if you offer him arbitration, he's going to make twice what, Clark thinks he thinks he's a valuable player, but you're going to be paying him twice what even someone who likes his value thinks he's worth in arbitration. So I asked him, well, would you consider not offering him arbitration? That's risky because then you can lose him. He becomes a free agent if you don't offer him arbitration, but then try to, sign him to a free agent deal. And Clark said, I take the risk of not offering him arbitration. His current $14.6 million arbitration evaluation is just really, really high. Doesn't think that other teams would come anywhere near that. So why would you, baseball teams are not in the business of massively overpaying players when they don't have to, usually. So is there a compromise somewhere in there where you pay Luis Arraez, you can make him happy, but you're not overpaying massively for something that the rest of the league is not valuing as much in terms of batting average?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. And that's the thing. And I think that's why this guy wrote that article. Like, what is he actually worth? And look, when he came to the Padres, the knock on Luis Arraez, I think, is, well, for a guy with such an elite eye and elite bat control, it works against him, right? Because he sees a pitch up and out of the zone that could be ball four, and he's like, yeah, I can get a hit off that, right? But he's actually walked more in his career than it's gone down. I mean, he walked 50 times in 22 with the Twins, walked 35 times with the Marlins in 23. But he actually had more RBI. I mean, he drove in almost 70 runs for the Marlins in their playoff run season. His average was 354, which is a robust 30, 40 points higher than it was here. So, yeah, man, if he's a 354 hitter with 70 RBIs, yes, I'm going to pay him $13 million or whatever is his ARB gets him for one more season. Is there any way to guarantee that? No, there's not. He never strikes out. He never ever strikes out in this age of, batting 230.
But again, your worth isn't what your stats are. It's what teams are willing to pay you.
Correct.
And right now, there's no indication that there are teams that are clamoring to give Luis Arraez, $15 million a year.
Yeah.
There's just no sign that that is the case. So why would the Padres just willingly fork over that much when they could devote some of that money toward more pitching or whatever else there needs? I'm not saying get rid of Luis Arraez. I'm saying find a way to pay him what he's worth, not twice as much as he is worth going forward. And is there a pathway to that? Yeah, I mean, maybe you offer him a 3-year extension that kicks in now at $10 million a year.
Sure.
$30 million. So less than you would have made in arbitration, but you're guaranteed 2 more years after that.
100%.
At something over your value. Is that makes sense for Luis Arraez? Polarizing player, to be sure.
Not for me. I love him.
Right,
I want him back. But
we'll talk to Eno Sarris about Luis Arraez in our Smart Baseball segment and more coming up in hour number 3 of Ben and Woods next here on 97.3 The Fan.
All right, my friends, we are halfway home on a Thursday. Ben and Woods, 97.3 The Fan. Just chopping it up in here, trying to figure it out. Certainly no experts at all. But, man, he's a polarizing guy for such a great, energetic, dude to be on the field. Luis Arraez is polarizing among fans, and I totally understand. I can absolutely see both sides of it, man, for sure. I'm Woodsy. That's Paul Reindl. He's the executive producer. Ben Higgins, your friendly neighborhood sports anchor. I think the thing that Ben Clemens and Fangraphs, they're obviously not going to write about because I'm not going to say they don't believe in it because you'd be foolish not to believe in intangibles and things like that. But Luis Arraez, you heard it from guys that when he came over, Manny said it all changed when Arraez got here, that's pretty high. It's pretty high praise.
Tells me he's a pretty elite player.
Yeah, Skip Schumacher, his former manager, said he's the best player I've ever coached. So I take those guys' words with more than a grain of salt. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the issues that people have, there's absolutely value. If you just told me the stat line of a player, career-wise, 323 average, 372 on-base percentage, 790 OPS. I mean, there's a lot of value there. He's had a 3.4 WAR season, 4.4, 4.9. This wasn't his best season. Yeah. Obviously, the thumb injury, the knee injury, I think played a part in that. Clearly, he's a player that is valuable and teams would want to have on their rosters. The question is, I think what bothers people who are kind of anti-Luis Arraez, he gets a lot of credit for the batting titles that he wins. And perhaps those are overvalued a little bit. He would be no less valuable if he has 0 batting titles. If he had those same numbers and had won no batting titles because every year someone edged him out for the batting title, wouldn't make him a less of a player. He just gets a lot of attention and praise for winning those batting titles. And I think some people say, well, it's not really that deserved. He's not a vastly better player than guys who don't win batting titles. And so he gets an outsized amount of attention for the level of player that he is, which is a valuable player, but maybe not, at the top of the game type player. Most guys, that aren't at the top of the game don't win batting titles and don't have the amount of, historic, numbers and perspective. Like, first guy who's ever done it 3 years in a row in 2 different leagues and 3 different teams. And, you make it sound like he's one of the all-time greats. He's not. He's not one of the all-time great baseball players, but he certainly is a valuable baseball player with an elite skill of putting bat to ball.
Yeah, and I can understand if you're Mike Schilt or AJ Preller looking at him in a vacuum and saying, yeah, table setter, he's going to get on base 210, 220, 236 times this year. That's what you need, right? I can see that. But if there was a better way to utilize him where he would become better, then yeah, I'm all ears. If he's hitting 3rd or 2nd or 6th or 7th or whatever, wherever you can use him, because again, I do feel like he's valuable. And when he's healthy, he is a delight. He's a delight to watch hit. You don't feel like there's a pitcher that can overmatch him. And the reason that they can't overmatch him, Benny, is that he never Ks. He just never strikes out. I mean, the streak he had with no Ks, that is a very valuable skill to have. Yeah, not striking out is brilliant. The ABs that he puts together to lead off a game sometimes helps the guy after him. Those aren't things that are going to show up in an article. I'm not disagreeing with this guy's article, though. Don't get me wrong. It made a hell of a lot of sense to me. And when it really breaks it down, you go, geez, he was negative value in runs scored. It doesn't compute from a very basic level. If you're getting on base more, you should score more runs, right? That was the whole Moneyball thing. You get on base, you score runs, okay? Well, I don't care if you got a walk, you get on base, you score runs. Wasn't the case for Luis Arraez this year. Batted 66% of the time with nobody on, so didn't really bring a lot of value to the San Diego Padres as he was used.
They definitely got his worst season in the last few years.
Sure.
And again, injuries are probably a part of that, but he usually hits for an even higher average. He usually walks even more. He usually has even more extra base hits. Everything was down for Luis Arraez this year. Hopefully there's a bounce back next year. And, it wasn't a bad season by any stretch of the imagination. He won a batting title, but that wasn't the best version of a Luis Arraez that we saw mostly with the San Diego Padres.
Yeah.
Now, you have to decide what that's worth.
The injury played a part in that, right? Like, of course. I don't even think it's questionable.
It's funny, though.
We didn't get the best year of Manny Machado because he was hurt for half the season.
It's funny, though, because he hit better in the second half of the season. Luis Arraez did.
He got off to a really bad start with the Marlins this year, and that was pre-injury, supposedly.
Despite the thumb. So the first half, he was 310, 720 OPS. 321, 769 OPS in the second half. No idea why, right? He hit 318 with a 744 OPS as a Padre in exactly 500 at-bats, but in 236 at-bats at Petco, his OPS was 620. I think that feels like an anomaly to me. I don't feel like Petco is the wrong park for him to hit at. I still feel like it's a good park for him to be, in this lineup at. And I do feel like he's a very valuable member of the team next season.
In Phoenix doesn't make him a power hitter all of a sudden.
No,
he's still the same type of hitter.
He's never going to slug, man. And that, when I see people comparing him, well, listen, look what Aaron Judge did, and look what Shohei Ohtani did, and look what Fernando Tatis did, and look. They're different players. They're completely different players with completely different skill sets. Like Luis Arraez is never going to hit 56 home runs, but Aaron Judge is probably never going to hit 350. Like that's never going to happen. So it's a little bit apples and oranges. They're both fruit, right? They're both fruit. But they're a little bit different, and I think you have to compare them as such. His comp right now is Steven Kwan. I don't know if you guys have been watching much of the Yankees-Guardians series. He's another guy that I could watch hit all day long. Lefty, righty, up, down, in, out, doesn't matter. He also throws in some Gold Glove defense as well, making him a little bit more valuable than Luis Arraez. But I don't know, man. I think there's definitely a fit for him next year. Is he potentially a trade chip? Yeah, I think he probably is a trade chip as well. I wonder what you could get for him, but I would be bummed to see him go.
One of the, I think, real mysteries of Luis Arraez is he actually defies a lot of what we know about baseball. When he actually hits the ball well, like he barrels it up and pulls it.
It's like the worst.
He almost always gets out. He hits those deep. He hit a lot of them in the playoffs.
He did.
He ripped balls into, deep right field at Dodger Stadium, right into someone's glove. When he missed it and hit a little, dinker off the end of the bat, it flowed in for a base hit. I mean, the guy, makes contact, gets a lot of those bloop hits, but his good hits don't probably result in hits, singles, extra bases as often as other players do because his bat speed is so low. He's got the lowest bat speed in all of baseball. So when he connects and does it well, the results tend to be worse than for other players when they connect the ball well. When Aaron Judge barrels a ball with his bat speed with any launch angle, it goes out of the yard. That's not the case with Luis Arraez. He doesn't swing hard enough to do that. So, really his barrel rate is very irrelevant because a barrel is not particularly advantageous for Luis Arraez.
Yeah, no question. And there's a lot in the chat. No one's disagreeing with any of your takes here. Like Nail says, he's just a one-dimensional player. What he does really well is hit singles. Outside of that, not much doing. Agreed. How valuable, how can you best utilize a guy that just hits singles, though? Can you utilize him better than just putting him at the top of your order? He doesn't have speed. He's not going to steal bags. Doesn't play great defense in the playoffs randomly, but it's not something I think you can count on at first or second for 162. But yeah, if another team wants a Luis Arraez, I wonder what you could get for him.
I mean, I would love a lineup where he is like your 7 or 8 hitter,
right?
Where he has a chance to drive in some runs,
or get on,
but also has a chance to get on for your top of the order guys, who presumably would be like Tatis as your number one guy with Arraez. In those big, long innings where you've scored a couple and you still have 2 runners on with 2 outs. And I'd love Luis Arraez to come up in those situations, but I would also like him to get on. I mean, I think he'd be very valuable as like a 7 hitter next season for the Padres.
No
Would
question.
they ever do that? I don't know.
I don't know either. It's that again. I think maybe he's misused a little bit, but
plus people will say, well, you can't pay your 7 hitter $15 million. You got to save your big money for the guys that you want at the top of the lineup.
Yeah, it's an interesting guy, man. Hassan, our buddy Mike says Petco is the wrong park for him. Is it? I mean, here's some numbers he put out. Try to discern this. 1 season here, 5 ABs. Yeah, maybe it is, but I feel like you could hit. If you're
I don't even know what kind of park Petco is anymore. It gave up its most home runs ever this year.
That's true.
It's obviously not Coors Field or Arizona, but it's also not Comerica Park anymore either. What kind of park is Petco Park at this point, and who is an ideal hitter for Petco Park? I'm not even sure what the answer to that question is anymore.
That's a decent research project this offseason. Who are the best hitters in Petco Park? What's the best model for what we have here? You would imagine a guy like Fernando Tatis Jr. is probably your mold for that, but
it's not like he's a bad hitter in other parks either.
That's correct.
He's also the best hitter for Dodger Stadium, apparently.
Yeah.
Absolutely rakes there. And I would say Dodger Stadium is a fairly good comparison for Petco Park as well.
Fairly.
I mean, you got a short porch right down the line in right. You've got the same kind of coastal sort of,
weather
marine layer. A little more inland, obviously, for Dodger Stadium, but it's never been a great hitter's park either. So, I'm not even sure what the answer to that question is anymore as to what is the ideal hitter for Petco Park.
Yeah, same.
All right. Well, you could not offer him arbitration, but you'd risk losing him. You'd risk offending him, going, "Oh, you really don't think very highly of me that you don't even offer me arbitration." But if you do, you're going to probably overpay him substantially compared to what he could get with other teams. I think the best situation is find a way to get a long-term deal done that buys out this last year at less, but also guarantees him some stability in a couple of more years at more than he might get. 3 years, 30, 3 years, 33, somewhere around that. I think that is maybe a good compromise for both sides. I don't know if him and his agent will think, well, we can do better than that. We're not going to sign that. Let's just play our arbitration year and then try to cash in next year in free agency after a better year. That might be his right strategy.
Yeah, could be.
So, it may be a tough deal to be struck between the Padres and Luis Arraez.
Yeah, and you just wonder if another team values him more than the Padres do. He's been on 3 teams in 3 years. I as far as what he brings to the team and the fit that he is, he's perfect. But I don't know if he's being deployed in the right manner. It certainly didn't seem so based on that article.
Correct.
It was pretty eye-opening.
All right, interesting stuff. We will talk to Eno Sarris coming up at the bottom of the hour. Get his thoughts on the value that Luis Arraez brings, and obviously more on the baseball playoffs as well. All right, let's check traffic. We will come back. I was talking about my conversations with Wale, my coworker at Channel 10. He asked me an interesting question I want to get your opinion on as well. We'll get to that coming up after traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
All right, here we go.
Black 17 on.
That is my number.
All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
All right, here we go.
Black 17 on.
That is my number.
All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
I had a very frustrating conversation with my coworker last night. And it's not his fault. I totally understand where he was coming from. But we had the baseball game on, and Shohei Ohtani's coming up, and goes, and he's trying to get more into baseball. This is Wale. And I so understand his question. Coming from a football and basketball fan's perspective, he goes, So who's the greatest baseball player of all time? I mean, that's a really tough question in baseball. For a long time, people thought it was Babe Ruth. Now, some people are saying could be Shohei Ohtani with everything he does. Well, how many titles has he won? I go, this is the first time he's ever even been in the playoffs. And Wally goes, how could he possibly be the greatest player of all time if he's never even won a title? And I go, it's not basketball, man. You cannot carry your team to a title in baseball. Winning championships it's not irrelevant, but it certainly is not anywhere near as valuable in the discussion as whether, how many championships Tom Brady has won in football or Michael Jordan has won in basketball. That is absolutely the first thing you mention when you talk about the GOATs of those sports, yep. Whose team has won the most championships. Barely even relevant in baseball in the discussion of who is the best player of all time. And Wally just
Bonds, no championships.
Wally just
Tony
could not
Gwynn, no championships.
grasp necessarily that you could be the greatest
Jr.,
player
no
in a sport and not even sniff a championship. And I go, that's baseball. It's just different. So in your mind, like how championships, how valuable are they in terms of individual legacies in sports?
It goes both
in baseball.
It goes both ways though, because you have players that are severely overrated, like Derek Jeter, right? Derek Jeter.
He's the one baseball player who gets more credit for his championships than anything else.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And what he was able to do in October, right? He was one of those guys that you could count on in October. But in the course of 162, solid. Hell yeah, solid. You love to have
All-star.
All-star. You love to have that guy on your team, certainly. But when it came to October, he was kind of a different animal. He would hit for power, like weird home runs, and obviously some fan-aided home runs as well. But he would definitely define his career, guys, on his rings. He would hold them up and say, I got 4 of these bad boys. I do think I agree with you. I mean, I think about the best baseball players of all time, and certainly of our generation. I feel like some of the best ones, as you just mentioned, didn't even win one. Mike Trout is one of the best I've ever seen. He's never going to win one. We're going to go to he's going to go to his grave never winning a championship, really only getting one shot at the postseason, which that's not necessarily his fault.
Barry Bonds only made it to one World Series.
Right.
You take like Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr., Mike Trout. They have, I don't remember how many games that series went, but 6 World Series games amongst all 3 of them.
Yeah. So Wally asked me, so how many did A-Rod win? And I go, 1. And he goes, so Jeter was the better player. I go, no. Anyone who knows baseball would tell you that on an individual basis, A-Rod was vastly superior in talent, just about every skill that you can have in baseball. A-Rod was better than Jeter in baseball.
Except in October. I mean, they really will judge your whole career on the tournament that you play at the end of the year, which, again, I don't really have a problem with. I mean, I really don't have... Like, Luis Sojo was a postseason legend. You're seeing Kike Hernandez postseason legend.
And I saw someone make a great comparison. So how do you compare it to basketball? And they said, Kike Hernandez is like Robert Horry.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, he's got 5 or something.
He got I mean, like Robert
7.
Horry won a bunch of rings, but he also was clutch. He made huge shots in the playoffs.
Yeah,
but
he was riding the pine.
He wasn't an all-star, was never going to be an all-star player, but, he was a huge contributor in the postseason. Yeah, Steve Kerr was
a role player, but he's got
massive
he's
shots.
putting rings on his toes now.
Massive shots
in his
career. Yeah, massive shots. So I think baseball has the ability to recognize a great player that may have been in a bad organization, a bad team. You see it all the time. Football players, great. Think about all the great quarterbacks that probably just ended up in the wrong organization. And they could have been potentially the next Tom Brady. They could have been the next whoever.
Where does Aaron Rodgers land? One Super Bowl title.
He's one of the best. He's certainly one of the best of his generation.
I mean, he's kind of like the A-Rod of
a little bit
of football. Definitely one of the most talented players ever of his generation.
Well, like Eli Manning's got 2 rings. Is he better than Aaron Rodgers? I don't think anyone's going to make that argument.
I do think baseball will delineate sometimes, and they'll say, "Oh, that guy's a like postseason legend." Like David Wells. There's guys that have like really done it on the big stage, and those guys are kind of singled out.
I mean, is Madison Bumgarner one of the greatest pitchers of all time? Certainly in the postseason.
October, bro.
Yeah.
In October. He is, I mean, he doesn't pay for a beer in San Francisco ever, nor should he. I mean, he was next level, man. But, yeah, I think, very few players get it all. Very few players get it all. The really, like, Jeter's, I say overrated player, but like Joey pointed out, he had 3,000 hits. 3,000 hits is no joke. It's no joke. Like, that's a really fancy club to be in. And
but he's talked about as if he had 5,000 hits.
It's exactly
sometimes.
right. Or 350, 400 home runs, right? Yeah. But that wasn't his game. But the 4 rings is what he sleeps well at night, knowing, I was the captain of this team that delivered 4 rings. Hell yeah. And who doesn't want that legacy? Which one would you take? Would you rather have the Mike Trout or would you rather have the Derek Jeter? I'll take the Jeter all day.
Yep.
Captain of the team that won 4 rings. And I played very well in all of those World Series. Like, done. It's a no-brainer.
Even me, and we disagree a lot. I'd take the Jeter career
all
too.
day.
Yeah.
All day. Then the Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
Or the Mike Trout in a heartbeat.
I don't know if there's
Barry
any
Bonds?
I don't know if there's
That's a
any career
tough
I'd
one.
no, I think I'd rather have Derek Jeter's career over almost anyone's
Dude, I know.
in baseball.
3,000 hits.
No one's ever called Derek Jeter the GOAT, though.
No, not even close.
No.
Not even
Not
close.
even close.
Wasn't even the best player of his generation. Wasn't even close.
No.
But
Not
I
the
might
best
take
shortstop on his team,
I
but-
might take his career
And
over anybody else.
And see, but you would rather have Magic Johnson's than Robert Ory's.
Yeah.
Right?
But Magic has his rings.
He's
too.
got his
Yeah.
rings. You'd rather have. Who's a good comp?
Let's see. Who would be a good comp in terms of not winning a ton of championships?
Kevin Durant's got what, 1?
2?
Does he have 2?
Maybe 2.
Just the one with the
Oh,
Warriors.
the one with the
right?
Warriors.
Just the one with the Warriors.
You want
Yeah.
Durant's career or you want Robert Ory's?
He's another Aaron Rodgers
Durant.
type.
You want Durant? Yeah, he's pretty good. Pretty dominant. One of the 5 best in his era.
I think because in baseball, we're talking to guys that never won 1 versus Jeter who won 4. I get the sense that once you get the 1, I don't want to say the rest are gravy, but like you got yours.
It's got to be the most elite feeling in the world. Like the most like.
Now, if Kevin Durant had not won any, I bet he'd be like, I just want to ring.
I just want 1. I'll
want
go
a
anywhere.
ring.
I'll do
But
anything.
He's got his 1. Yeah, 1 versus 4. Huge difference.
Klug makes a good point. The Braves guys, all those guys, they got 1.
Maddox.
Glavine. Smoltz.
Chipper Jones.
1. You want their careers, or do you and those dominant runs, or do you want that? You want those 4? I take the 4. He may be my number 1 career to have. Really. Plus, we've all seen the
His
we've all
lineup.
seen
Buster
the lineup.
Posey's kind of an interesting argument there.
He's got 2.
He's got 2 of the 3 that they
I think
won.
He's got 2
he got
of
all
the 3.
3.
Maybe he got
Did
all
he
3.
not get all 3?
Maybe he got all 3.
I can't remember if he got all 3, but I think he got all 3.
Ted Williams, great comp. Do you want Ted Williams' career? You're literally regarded as maybe the best to ever do it. You never got a ring.
Yeah,
Sucks,
that's a good one.
man.
Yeah.
Sucks. Tony Gwynn.
Posey's got 3. He's got an MVP, 7-time All-Star. That's a damn good career.
Damn fine career. And now he's the president of baseball ops
Yep.
for the Giants.
Rookie of the year. I mean,
That's pretty
Gold
good.
Glover.
Yeah, that's a good career.
5-time Silver Slugger.
That's good.
That's a really good career.
That's a great career.
That's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
He's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
All right. Eno Sarris is going to join us, our Smart Baseball Weekly segment. We'll ask him about his thoughts on the value of Luis Arraez, maybe the pitching market as well that we were discussing earlier. That is coming up next here with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan. Arraez knows exactly what he is stumbled into with our Luis Arraez conversation this morning.
We've had it with him before.
A little bit, for sure. But now it's now it's kind of becoming decision time for the San Diego Padres. Paulie says we should just get into it. So if you would, Paulie?
It's time for the super polished, yet to be named Smart Baseball Weekly segment with Eno Sarris, son of a bitch. Brought to you by 7 Mile Casino, just 7 minutes from the ballpark, by the bay in Chula Vista. Here's Eno Sarris with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
Well, good morning to you, Eno. And so we're talking, as we have a lot this year, about what value Luis Arraez really brings to a team. Woodsy was reading a piece that said he's actually negative runs added to the team's offense during the year. And I think the question is, with arbitration now, a number that's looking like, $14 to $15 million, with the Padres, should they even be offering him arbitration? Should they be trying to buy that out at a lower number? Is that a risk? I mean, where do you kind of land on the whole Luis Arraez value debate at this point?
I mean, I think anybody who's watched him all year knows there's flaws. He doesn't run the bases well. He's not a good defender, and the power is non-existent. So it's really kind of a one-note thing, which is he's better at that one thing than anybody else in baseball. So it's a really strange grouping of skills where something he does better than anybody else, and then everything else he's almost worse than anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like a DH that can hit singles a ton. So it's a really difficult thing to put together. But I would say that if you didn't need the money desperately somewhere else, it would still be worth it, because what we saw was a down year for him offensively. What you would project for him next year is a little bit more power. He hit 4 homers this year. You would project more like 7 to 10. And you'd project a little bit more on base. And so if you do that, and you project a little bit of a bounce back defensively, because he had the worst defensive numbers of his career, you would get a league average player. And a league average player, theoretically should be worth around $20 million. So he should be worth it. But I do think that the article was right to point out that, for example, he maybe shouldn't be batting leadoff.
Yeah, that's what that's what I was going to ask you. How would you deploy? How should he be deployed? And again, all things being equal, he's healthy, the thumb's good, and he's back to Luis Arraez. And what I've heard about him too, is he doesn't want a DH. Now, if you had a guy that was like, yeah, I'll DH, I'm fine. He doesn't want to. He wants to play the field, and he thinks it helps him.
You gotta listen to that.
Yeah, and you have to listen to that. You do. And as much as we all want to sit here and say, well, you're the manager, tell him what to do. It doesn't work that way. So,
well, one thing that you have with DH in particular is there's a penalty. You're 10% worse than you normally are when you're on the bench, and so. If you take 10% off the top of Luis Arraez, you kind of get what you got this year.
Yeah.
And so then it might not be worth it, because then you wouldn't be giving you any defensive value. He might just be a 1-win player for the year. And that'd be a little bit of an overpay. But people would, if people were offered Luis Arraez for 1 year and $14 million, I think most people would take it. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, it's a decent deal for 1 year, even if you wouldn't give him, say, 3 and 45. You know what I mean? But I think one of the problems is just the sort of general crunch. In terms of how I'd use him, a single is not worth as much if nobody's on base. I think that should make sense.
Yes, 100%.
Then it's the same as a walk. A single is better than a walk if there are people on base. And so I would maybe bat him 4th or 5th. Because he'd be coming up behind the guys who get on base and who slug, and so you'd love to have him come up with a guy on 3rd with less than 2 outs.
Oh, all day, man, all day. Yeah. You feel like that's money in the bank with Luis Arraez.
Right. So he definitely has the Padres this year had the best strikeout rate in baseball, and for much of the year, him and Merrill, were so good at making contact that they were a great foil for Machado and Tatis, who hit for power and strike out a little bit more. So I think that it was good. It was good lineup construction. I know how it ended, but just because of those 2 or 3 games, I wouldn't ignore the whole season. And so if I had the money, I'd bring him back. But one thing that I have seen when I look at the payroll, pages for the Padres is they're really close to that luxury tax number.
Yeah.
Over at Fangraphs, they put in the arbitration numbers for everybody, and they have them at 231, and the luxury tax threshold is 237, and that's without adding a single person. So if you have $6 million, that is with Arraez. But if you have $6 million to replace Tanner Scott, Kyle Higashioka, Jurickson Profar, David Peralta,
Solano. Yeah. That
Solano.
sounds rad. Awesome, Eno. Great to talk to you, and we'll talk to you next year. No, I'm just kidding. No,
there's something that has to give. Maybe you can get Kyle Higashioka for like $3 or $4 million. Because he's older, and I don't know what the rest of the league thinks of him. But that's still. But Profar's not coming back for $1 million again.
No.
And so you could say, okay, we don't need Profar. We'll just do, bring David Peralta back for about $1 million. You could probably do that. Peralta and Solano for $1.5 million. You could probably just re-rack that. But one thing that happens is corner outfielders like Peralta, Solano, and Profar, there's going to be somebody at the bottom of the market at the end of the season, at the end of the off season, that'll be there that'll sign for little, just like Peralta and Solano, if it's not exactly Peralta and Solano. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I do think backup catcher or catcher, if you
catcher.
don't think Campusano is a starter. That's the biggest need, and it's a difficult one to solve with less than $5 million.
Talking to Eno Sarris here, our weekly Smart Baseball segment. And is there any, metric explanation for Shohei Ohtani's postseason? 17 for 20, runners on base, scoring position, 0 for whatever with the bases empty. I mean, is there anything there, Eno, that we can make sense of?
There is something weird, actually. He's much more selective with runners on base. If you look at how many times he swings the pitches outside the zone, he does it a lot more when the bases are empty. So the way I kind of see it is with runners on base, he's actually not thinking about homering as much. With runners on base, he's like, a walk crowds these bases, a single or double might score somebody. Like I want to bear down and make sure that I kind of score this runner or advance him, But with nobody on base, he kind of swings for the fences a little bit, and so I think that could be a little bit of a process distinction. I don't know if it would hold up over a full year or whatever, but that's what I'm seeing right now.
Definitely is the old Shohei. You could just pretend there are runners on base when you go up there. That's it. I mean, you can just imagine they're out there, and then have that mindset every time you go to the plate.
Mets are cooked, right? They're cooked.
I mean, the one nice thing about the Mets is that their lineup, in terms of going into the season, through the season, their lineup is one of the better ones in the postseason. And so usually that leads to something. But the weird kind of 8-0 games makes you wonder. Another thing that Dave Roberts has done. So the more times you see a reliever over the course of one series, it's a little bit like the third time through order with a starter. You hit the reliever better the third time you see him. And the one thing that bothers me about where this series is for the Mets right now is, somebody like Lindor has not seen the relievers multiple times.
Right.
Most of these guys have not seen, because when you win a game 8-0, you can put in guys that you're not going to use in the 2-1 game.
Sure.
So, Evan Phillips, Michael Kopech was used in a certain part of the order. He can be used in a different part of the order next time. So I think Dave Roberts is managing the team well, and it doesn't look good for them now.
No, he's pushed all the right buttons, certainly, and has a plan and stuck to it, and it's the guys are executing. And I'm looking at some of the guys in their bullpen going, I don't know. You could see Blake Trinan 15 times. I don't know that anybody's getting anything off of what he's throwing, right now.
I mean, Kopech
too.
Nice
He's just outstanding and incredible. So I if I'm Roberts, I'm like, Yeah, you saw him yesterday, but I'll take my chances with the stuff, just the pure stuff. It's got to elate you watching what Treinen and Kopech have done, stuff plus wise and all that.
Oh yeah, they're great. Kopech has one of the best increases. When he went to the pen, his fastball increased. The only person whose fastball increased year over year more in stuff plus is Luke Weaver when he went to the pen.
Yeah.
So, it's a perfect role for him too because he has no command and so he just kind of throws it hard. But one thing that it does speak in the Mets' favor, if they can just get into that bullpen more, the Mets were like the third best team in baseball against relievers this year. They were not as good against starters, but they were great against relievers. So if they can just battle their way into that reliever core, and if you think about the starters that the Dodgers have, there's not really one starter that you think, oh, this guy's going to throw 7 or something, So
they're pitching
going to
well,
get into that
yeah.
bullpen. I don't think they've done. The Mets are done winning games. I think it's tough to see them winning the whole series, but they're going to win another game or two. So.
Speaking of pitching, we were discussing earlier what the Padres might do beyond their, top 3 in their rotation next year with Joe Musgrove out. And as you said, they're close to the luxury tax. Let's say they're willing to go over it. They reset the penalties. They might be able to spend on a starting pitcher. There's a lot in the free agent market that's available. Who would you think is going to be someone that could be targeted? Not necessarily, Corbin Burns, Blake Snell, top of the market, but guys who could be available on a one-year deal or one-year option type deals that the Padres could target to fill that Joe Musgrove spot in their rotation this offseason.
One of my favorites is Nick Pivetta from the Red Sox, but I think he might take a little more than 1 year.
Yeah.
I'm trying to call up a page here of free agents. I don't have an answer right off.
There Merrill Kelly, Alex Cobb, Nick Martinez, Kyle Gibson.
I actually like Cobb.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't think he'll be as injured this year. This year was his first year back off of hip surgery. And it wasn't his best, and that will make him literally a 1 year guy, I think, because he'll be looking for a pillow contract, and he has a great sinker splitter combo, and he sometimes uses a cutter and sweeper, and I think Ruben Niebla will coax those out of him. So I like Alex Cobb a lot in the 1 year.
Do you think that there's any value left in a 1 year deal for a Max Scherzer or a Justin Verlander at this point? For a team that's trying to win next year.
I do. You're just hoping for, a little bit of a random, good year in terms of health. One thing that I worry about with both of those guys is they could be guys that get you to the postseason, but not ones that you want to pitch too hard in the postseason. We're seeing that there's a line there where it's Martin Perez is perfectly fine during the regular season when you need to rack up wins and you need to pitch day to day. But in the postseason, did he pitch once?
No.
Yeah. So, you just Verlander was left off the playoff roster for Houston. That was eye opening. So I think, I prefer, which one do I prefer? I think I prefer Verlander. And you just hope that he, has a better year health-wise, feels better. But I think there's something left in both those arms.
And interesting stuff. Obviously we got the World Series coming up, and we'll see if it's the Dodgers Yankees matchup that I'm sure Rob Manfred and his office would salivate over, or if the Mets and Guardians can come up with a surprise here.
Yeah, one thing that as I've been watching this is I'm a little annoyed at the announcers.
Yes.
I don't think
talking to the right show.
You're talking to the right show, buddy.
And do you remember how it was fun to see Mudcat and Don sitting in the stands? That was fun,
yeah.
But it would have been nicer to hear them. One thing that I was suggesting that I thought was doable, because I don't know about the financials. I don't know if the demand is there, to pay for, more announcers and an alternate cast. There is a nerd cast coming for one of these games. But I don't know if the money's there. One thing that they could do is on MLB TV, when you get the postseason package, there's audio for every game, and that audio is, like Jesse Agler. It's the local, it's the local radio crew for each team. And I just wish there could be a button
sync it
where it was like
Apple TV.
I want to watch. Yeah, I want to watch this game with that radio overlaid as the audio.
It's pretty simple. I mean, you take all the games off of
sync it up.
TBS and everything, and Apple TV is your new postseason home for baseball, and they'll spend a ton of money to do it. Their broadcast is spectacular, and you can sync it with ease to the local radio guys. But yeah, it's been rough. I mean, John Smoltz, he never stops talking. There's never a moment where he stops
Let the game breathe.
explaining every single thing.
And he's wrong about stuff.
And he's wrong about stuff. Yeah.
Like he was talking about 1 knee down, which is the way the catchers.
We talked about that yesterday. Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, wild pitches and pass balls are up because of 1 knee down. You're like, well, actually, it's the opposite. They're down. You could just have fact checked that before you just said it on the air.
Yeah, it's been a tough putt. It's been a little bit of a tough putt watching those guys.
He has this idea that third time through the order didn't exist when he played,
right?
And it only exists now. And that's also, you can fact check that. No, third time through the order has been there for all of baseball's history.
They just didn't talk about it as much.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Eno, appreciate it. Yeah, have a good week. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
Eno Sarris, weekly segment, still brought to you by 7 Mile Casino throughout the postseason. Paul, we have time. We'll do a quick traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Ulta Beauty. Well, guys, we still have a few problems here in the North County dealing with the collision on southbound 5 on or near the Palomar Airport Road off-ramp. Also, traveling on westbound 52 past Cuyamaca, there is a collision blocking the fast lane. Westbound King Freeway, accident over the right shoulder at the 805. Up ahead, another crash just past 28th Street. That's blocking the 2 left lanes. The Emerald City came to Ulta Beauty with wicked collaborations from REM Beauty by Ariana Grande. It brushes for Ulta and OPI. Hurry in, these fantabulous products won't last long. See Wicked November 22nd, only in theaters. Ulta Beauty, the possibilities are beautiful. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
I know Eno panicked everybody with the Padres projected luxury tax number. I was going to say the same thing. Woods, you mentioned it during the traffic report. I did look it up, though. If you look at the other sites, Spot Track, they're not $6 million under. They're $2 million over already.
Oh, cool. Oh, good. I thought I looked at that yesterday. What was I looking at?
They're projected at $243 million with their luxury tax number for 2025. 241 is the projected threshold. So that would be over already.
Old Haas grabbing 13 of that, isn't he?
One more year, absolutely.
Very cool, man. Very. I hope your
you
podcast
can't fill all
is
of your
going
holes
well.
even with $13 million though nowadays. So now their actual payroll is quite a bit less, but it's because it's the average value of still guys who are going to be making more in the future. Makes it hard to do long-term contract extensions though, because you're going to blow way past the tax. We'll talk about that more. Paulie's got some headlines in the Reindl Report next year on 97.3 The Fan. Thanks again to Eno Sarris. He was definitely preaching to the choir when it came to more local broadcasters in the playoffs. It's kind of a crime that we don't get to hear from Mudd and Don at all. Glad that we still got Jesse and Tony throughout the postseason, and that's great. And, you get to listen to them, and if you're really good, you can sync it up and go that way. But it should be more automatic. It should be easy for baseball fans to pick Jesse or pick Don and just be able to watch the games. And I don't think it even has to be on Apple. They should be able to do it on TBS or Fox or wherever you're watching the games. Alternate channel, same feed, same commercials, but you get a different announcer. It's just would add to the viewer's experience. I don't think the cost would be really that much for the networks. I mean, my guess would be that Don and Mudd would love to be working those games, that you're not going to have to double their salary to get them to work a few postseason games. They'd probably, given the choice, they'd rather work than not work and just sit and watch those games. So
I've said before, I'd be fine even if they did some, and I know there's contracts and, guys work for TBS versus ESPN or whatever, but if the networks would just pay for the home team, they get to broadcast those games. At will contracts or whatever, 1 day contract at a time, just pay them per game. Then you get Joe Davis when the Dodgers are hosting, but then you get Don and Mudd on FS1 or whatever.
Works for
when
me.
It's a home game here in San Diego.
I understand the desire for a neutral national broadcast if possible. I mean, obviously you can't with Joe Davis calling Dodgers games, but with a Mets Brewers series, you can have a neutral national broadcaster. But I want to hear, if I'm a Brewers fan, I want to hear Bob Uecker or my Brewers broadcasters. If I'm a Met, I want to hear Gary Cohen. I just figure out a way, no matter what the channel is, to have those home broadcasters still be able to work during the postseason.
Look, you listened on the All-Star uniforms. Listen on this, okay? You fixed it. Everyone realized your cream All-Star uniforms were terrible, and you're going to go back to the way it was, and it's going to be better. It's very simple. Figure it out.
Paulie's actually got a story about quick responses to sports situations. You can actually act. If you have enough motivation and enough drive,
you can do it.
You can actually act to do something. And we'll get to that here in the Reindl Report.
And get things started here with our today's edition of the Reindl Report.
Now tuned into the greatest.
Welcome to the Reindl Report with Paul Reindl.
Hi, Paul.
All right.
2 stories from the world of sports that we haven't gotten to yet.
We'll start off in Major League Baseball.
And 1 story that you didn't know you needed.
Are you laughing, biatch?
It's the Reindl Report.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
On 97.3 The Fan.
Are you ready to bless the mood? I need some help, please.
That was good.
Can I get a yeah? Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Carvin Guy. We'll start off with that story, Benjamin. Earlier in the week, probably Monday, we were talking a little college football, and we talked about the big win over Ohio State. It came down to the very end, and Oregon, there's a little bit of speculation. Was this planned? Was this not planned? They put 12 men on the field because of the 10-second runoff, and it ended up working out in their favor. And Dan Lanning did say, the head coach for Oregon, you practice wild scenarios for like the end of the game, end of the half, whatever, like all the time. Most of them, you never encounter that situation. This was one that the opportunity showed itself, and we had practiced this.
Crazy, man.
And we knew exactly what we wanted to do. Now, they didn't break any rules. They found a loophole.
So they did break a rule, but it was one they were willing to break.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. You can't have 12 men on the
field. They were
field.
penalized.
But they realized the penalty for breaking the rule was less punishing than the advantage of breaking the rule.
Yes. So the NCAA yesterday announced that they have issued a new rules interpretation on how to handle when there are 12 men on the field in the final 2 minutes of either half. So it says if the defense has 12 players actively participate in the down, then the offense can choose, along with a 5-yard penalty, to have the game clock reset back to the time that was on the clock before the snap.
Easy fix.
Very easy fix.
Easy fix.
Now, they said, look, it's kind of open to interpretation, but if a guy is clearly running off the field and trying to get off, that's not actively participating. They're not purposely trying to have 12 men on the field if he's running off. So a little bit of room there. But yeah, NCAA saw that. It was in a top, what was it, 2 versus 3 on Saturday? So huge game, a lot of eyeballs. Oregon found a loophole. That loophole has been closed by the NCAA.
So they fixed that in, 4 days?
Yeah.
4 days. They saw a problem, and they fixed it. All right, now do the transfer portal.
Yes.
Put your mind to it.
They're like, nah.
And figure this out because it's a mess. And I'm not, again, I think college athletes should have the ability to move schools if they don't want to be at a school. If they can get other offers, that's fine. But the way it is right now with the windows to transfer, with players opting out in December before playoffs and bowl games because they've already been approached by other schools in basketball, the window opens during the NCAA tournament. It's like, all right, we're still playing games, and we got players transferring out and transferring in all over the place.
Whatever happened with that UNLV quarterback? Remember he had led him to
I think he's redshirting now and waiting for a better offer somewhere else.
Interesting.
They said the Circa CEO said, "I'll give him."
Remember, he was like $100,000.
I'll give him his $100,000, and the NCAA or
said no.
They said no, we can't just do that. Take $100,000 from a casino and give it to a player. That seems a little unsavory, doesn't it? But even San Diego State's already facing it. I saw a piece in the UT. They have the leading sacker in the nation.
I saw that
Trey
the other
White,
day. Yeah.
sophomore, leads the nation by far.
So he wants out.
Like 11 sacks. No, he said, "Hey, I'm not thinking about anything." But they already know. Alabama, Georgia, they're all going to come. I mean, he can't go in the draft yet. He's just a sophomore. They're all going to come with giant NIL offers. He could be the foundation for the Aztecs next year, and there's like zero chance they're going to be able to keep him.
Very cool.
It's not a great situation to be in when you're one of those schools. He's
not just
playing
football
too
either.
well.
I'm starting to get into Aztec basketball season, and I saw that they have like the preseason freshman of the year in Pharaoh Compton, Magoon Guap, and I'm talking with some buddies, and we're all just like, the way the structure is now, like if they have one good year, they're gone.
Yeah.
And not just for the NBA, like they're gonna go get
They
more
lost
NIL
Lamont
money.
Butler. They lost Elijah Saunders. They lost. I mean, there's basketball where the Aztecs do compete on a national level. In
Keyshawn
football,
Johnson.
it's even harder. Now, here's the negative part that no one's talking about, potentially for the students. Let's say this. Trey White's going to be a really good star, but you kind of want to keep him for next year. All of a sudden, you have to think as a coach, do I want him to really excel and show all these sacks? Maybe I should put him in a less advantageous situation this year so he doesn't get all these offers. And then next year, when I've got a better team, then I unleash him. And now you've got a situation where
that seems unethical.
Coaches aren't, it's not in their best interest for guys to necessarily have great seasons because they're going to lose them. So you got to hide players and not show them off as much. And that would be bad for the student athletes if coaches kind of started thinking chess and going.
I think Brian Dutcher is going to be halfway through this. 3 weeks into the season. Hey, Pharaoh, you're averaging like 30 a game. I'm going to need you to tone it down.
We can't afford what you're going to get in NIL next year, so we're going to have to cut down on your minutes and not show.
Don't think it won't happen, man. Don't think
absolutely
it won't.
Will happen. Absolutely, it would happen.
All right, over to Major League Baseball. Britt Giroli from The Athletic had a story yesterday that Jerry Reinsdorf is at least open to the idea of selling the Chicago White Sox.
So magnanimous of him. So he's willing to take billions of dollars in exchange for his team.
For the worst team in baseball.
I don't have the list, but what would you guess? Even the worst team in baseball is valued at
$3 billion.
Yeah.
Call it $3 billion?
Yeah,
something like that.
He bought the club in 1981 for $20 million.
Okay. Yeah. That seems like a lot
So
of money
he's
back
willing
then. Maybe.
He's willing to accept that percentage increased profit on his team. Very, very generous of you, Jerry.
He is 88 years old. He is a controversial team owner. They have the worst season. Always has been. You're right. 100%. Just like the worst season in Major League Baseball history. And apparently he's been talking to a group that is led by Dave Stewart.
Yes, Dave Stewart.
He really wants to get back
into wants to.
Former Padres pitching coach Dave Stewart.
Scariest One of the scariest human beings to face, I would imagine.
He is very.
If anybody ever faced him,
talk to anything, he's
scary to talk to. We interviewed him, I think, once.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Think so.
He's
intimidating.
Terrifying.
I was just reading more about Reinsdorf possibly selling. That's the story.
But Dave Stewart doesn't have a ton of money, so he needs
he's part of a group.
Part of a group.
He needs someone to back him,
Yeah,
but he'd be the front of the group.
Scary. You will. He's the guy that goes in and closes the deal.
Yeah.
You will sign here. I got a couple other things.
No, you're signing.
Dave Stewart's also been part of that group that's been trying to get a team to Nashville. Like he wants to be involved in ownership.
Well,
of
you
a
do
team.
wonder then if that's the move.
You leave Chicago? For Nashville?
I don't, but
bigger market for a smaller market?
But I mean, you corner the market. There's two teams in Chicago. Chicago, they're not drawing. I mean,
it's a Cubs town.
It's Cubs town.
Yeah.
That would be nuts. I mean, I would hate it every second of it, but
there's a paragraph here talking about
that could be it.
All of the accomplishments. There have been accomplishments in Reinsdorf's 44 years of ownership. Them winning the World Series in 2005, that's so forgettable to me. I remember it. I know
it really is,
they beat
man.
the Cardinals.
But you know who doesn't forget that? White Sox fans.
100%.
They got one. We don't.
Yeah.
They got one.
So
and he also has all those Bulls titles that he's won as an owner
100%.
as well.
Right.
That's probably more important to him, I would think.
Yeah, Adam says Nashville has a ton of money. Yeah, I mean, Nashville is a very burgeoning market. I would not mind seeing a team there. I just hope it's not. I hope it's an expanded team and not a team ripped from a city. Though the 17 fans that went to White Sox games, I don't know that they would mind. But they would come out in droves like the A's fans did. Certainly, nobody wants to lose their team.
So we're going to Philadelphia next year as a show.
Yeah,
to see
can't wait.
Citizens Bank Park. If Nashville got a team, that would be next on my list to go. I want to go to Nashville.
You
great.
would? Why?
I want to see Nashville.
Oh,
Love it.
All right.
I've never been there.
So much fun.
I'm a little old for it. We're a little old for
Are
that.
we?
Yes.
Yeah, I went when I was 21.
But there's got to be places for us as well. They can't all be,
Kid Rock's bar?
Yeah.
I'd love to see Ben raging at Kid Rock's bar.
Yeah, I went there in like 2011. That phenomenon of every singer having their own bar hadn't quite taken off yet. Now Luke Bryan's bar is right next to Jason Aldean's bar, which is across the street from
They do have my alley, man.
They do
I
have clever names usually, like, I love this bar.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Bar.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't like places like that?
No, I don't want to go to those places.
So, like,
I want to eat fried chicken and, like things that no hot chicken, Nashville, things like that.
Brandon says Ben throwing chairs off rooftops like Morgan Wallen. No, all right, I'll sign up for that. If he promises if we go to Nashville that he's going to go buck wild down on Broadway,
that
then
might be
fine.
fun. Get him some boots.
Adam says one of my musician friends is in his 50s, plays the music scene. He says it's a blast. I have no doubt it's a blast. None whatsoever. My brother-in-law plays the music scene in Nashville. It's insane though. Ben in an insane Nashville. I don't know if you. I don't know if it is what you think it is. I think it's too much for you to handle, is what I'm telling you.
Oh, the winter meetings always look fun when they're in that giant Opryland hotel place.
You're more of a
check that out too.
You're more of a let's go check out Portland guy, in my opinion.
I've been to Portland. I like Portland.
Yeah, there you go. Say that.
Got it. All right. Well, actually, speaking of music, that leads right into my third story. Saw this TikTok going around yesterday about Rihanna and one of her earlier, look, she is one of the biggest stars on the planet.
This blew my ever-loving mind.
This was amazing.
By the way. This blew my mind.
SOS, one of her earlier top singles in her career, like probably 06, 07, if I had to guess. You've heard the song, but one of the writers of the song was being interviewed on some podcast.
This is brilliant.
And this clip went viral about how an entire verse of this extremely popular song. Well, I'm just going to let the audio play for itself here.
I wrote it. I had no idea what I was doing. The whole second verse of that song is 80s song titles strung together as sentences because I thought it would be super clever. Take on me, aha. You know inside you feel it right. Take me on. I could just die up in your arms tonight. I melt with you. You got me head over heels.
It's unreal.
But boy, you keep me hanging on the way you make me feel.
I know these songs.
They're all #1 songs from the 80s.
That's incredible. I had no idea about
No one
that.
does.
It's like a massive incorporator. Is
Yeah.
what he
Wow.
did. He just took the charts from the 80s. Was like
number one song after number one song. So it's like almost subliminal. You're like, well, I know all of those songs.
Oh, these are really catchy.
And it was it took a sample of Tainted Love in the whole song. So it's like, heard that and I go, never in a million years would have picked up on that. But
it was very subtly done.
It's brilliant. And I mean, I think, and like you said, I had no idea. He goes, yeah, nobody did. Nobody did.
Genius.
Pretty genius. One long, giant incorporator
and
for
it's
that
been
song.
Like 20 years now almost since that song came out.
I don't remember that song, but it still is a very, very fascinating way to write a song.
Now I want to see Bernie Taupin try to incorporate all the other Elton John song titles into one more Elton John song.
Yeah,
at the
just
end.
in the verse. Like, you could do it with country right now. You could do, like, I'm Not Okay by Jelly Roll. I'm not okay, a bar song. I'm tipsy, a lot more free. It's my first rodeo. You look like you love me. I had some help. I'm on a winning streak. Those are like the top 10 country songs right there. I got miles on it past yesterday. There ain't no love in Oklahoma, 'cause I'm gonna love you on that lonely dirt road. Take a bow on the high road and love me back. Mine down in Austin, my boots stopped working. I never lie, 'cause I'm stuck on you. That's literally like 15. That actually is.
Speaking of Nashville, you're ready.
That's as good as anything you're going to hear down the hall. That's as good. Okay?
Get you down
Don't
on
go
Music
breaking my
Row.
heart, Rocket Man. Can you feel the love tonight? Hold me closer. I'm still standing.
So good, dude. Somebody said that guy would smoke Woods and take on Woods. He would murder me, the guy that
He
wrote
would
that
be
song.
a really good
Murder.
take on Woods player. Absolutely.
That is so freaking good. I love it.
Very clever. All right, hey, it's Thursday, which means it's time for our football threesome. When we come back,
Football
we got
threesome. It's been a while.
Thursday night football with some unfortunate injury updates involving some players from San Diego who won't be on the field tonight. We'll get to that and more coming up next after traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
All right, here we go.
Black 17 on.
That is my number.
All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
All right, here we go.
Black 17 on.
That is my number.
All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
All right, yeah, we were so involved in the Padres playoffs the last couple of weeks, really our sole focus, that we got a little bit away from football season, but
Yeah, a little bit.
we are going to get back. There will be football talk on this program, even if it's over, Woods kicking and screaming You
Me?
actually do like football.
I like
That's
football.
That's the funny thing about it.
Mm-hmm. Not while there's baseball on.
We're definitely more of a baseball show, but we all love football,
Sure.
and I think we talk some good football here. And one way we do it every week is our football threesome. Let's get to it.
Can Ben and Woods interest you in a threesome?
A threesome would be fun.
Oh, not that kind of threesome.
Dang it.
We're talking end arounds, the best tight ends in the world.
He must work out.
And going all the way in this game of inches.
Nice.
It's the NFL Threesome with Ben and Woods. Brought to you by Hamul Casino. Fun above all else on 97.3 The Fan.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
We always start our football threesome with a look ahead to tonight's Thursday night matchup, kicking off, week 7 of the NFL season already.
Jeez.
I mean, we're almost halfway
home
into the year. The Denver Broncos visiting the New Orleans Saints at Caesars Superdome, which will also play host to the Super Bowl, I believe, at the end of the year this season. And the Saints will be without their top 2 wide receivers. Both the San Diego products, Chris Olave, is out with a concussion from Mission Hills High School, and Rashid Shaheed from Mount Carmel is having meniscus surgery. And unfortunately for Shaheed, I guess depends on how involved the surgery is. If it's just a quick cleanup, he could come back in a few weeks. If it's not, he could be out for the season, which would be another blow for a team that started hotwoods. They won their first 2 games big. Yeah. Then they lost 2 close. Then they lost by 2 touchdowns. Then they lost by 3 or 4 touchdowns last week. It's been just disintegrating over the last 4 games for the New Orleans Saints.
So with 2 playoff games tonight, I'm probably going to pass on Thursday Night Football.
We got a day game today, so the one game will be over by the time. You can do 2 screens and do 1 football, 1 baseball.
I don't have 2 screens.
He can't. He
I
doesn't
can't
know how to do
it.
it.
I don't know how to
picture
do
in picture, anything like that.
I don't like it. I don't like doing it. No, there's no PIP on my thing. So you guys fill me in on it tomorrow.
Broncos have had an up and down season. They're 3-3 with new quarterback Bo Nix. See how he does against a struggling New Orleans Saints team. All right, second up in our football threesome, most intriguing game of the week.
There's a couple in here.
I mean, I think the first one you look at most obviously is Chiefs 49ers.
I actually would have gone.
That was Chiefs 49ers
easily number 1.
I'm going.
Why did you
Because I'm going Vikings Lions, man. 5-0 against 4-1. That is a intriguing matchup, Benjamin.
The Vikings have been probably the biggest surprise, at least positive surprise in the NFL this season, with the injuries, the tragedy, losing J.J. McCarthy before the season even started. Looked like Kevin O'Connell was in a very bad spot. No, they've played great. Sam Darnold's been great.
Darnold!
The Vikings have... if you want to be a head coach in a good situation, have success with Sam Darnold as your quarterback, and you're going to go, all right, there's your coach of the year, no doubt about it. So,
this matchup for me, both in the NFC North. By the way,
Detroit coming off the just annihilation of the Cowboys,
best division in football, as we all speculated, right? The NFC North. 4-2 is your worst team in the Chicago Bears. 4-2 the Packers. 4-1 the Lions, and 5-0.
I agree, kind of, Paulie. Though I think Kansas City's undefeated, but they've been not overwhelmingly good in any of the games, just good enough to keep winning, whereas the 49ers are now 500. They've been riddled by injuries, but they're at home. Kansas City is coming off a bye. Andy Reid is something like 21-4.
Yeah, I saw that.
Coming off of byes, so they've got that advantage.
What's the line?
It's Niners by 1.5 at home.
I'll take the Chiefs.
That's the afternoon national game on Fox. And then you got a doubleheader for Monday Night Football as well. Ravens, Tampa Bay on ABC and ESPN, and Chargers and Cardinals only on ESPN+. They don't even get to be on television this week. That's how bad things have gotten for the Chargers. You're no longer even televised anymore.
So happy.
It's like the first game ever that wasn't even televised at all. I guess you can say that all the Thursday night games on Amazon Prime are sort of streamed now, but ESPN+ is...
Is that the bottom of the
barrel?
barrel?
Rough, isn't it?
So I look at him; he's so giddy.
It's kind of rough.
I haven't seen him this giddy in a while.
I'm sorry. I just think it's funny that they're just going to be on ESPN+. You have to be a diehard for the ESPN+ subscription.
Yeah, I have an ESPN+
I do too,
subscription
because I want to read passing, but I'm not.
Mine's to watch the NLL. The National Lacrosse League.
I'm not buying it for a Chargers-Cardinals game, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, dude. It's really not cheap either, by the way.
I mean, with Amazon Prime, you're at least getting, Amazon Prime,
right?
Deliveries and everything. ESPN Plus doesn't bring anything to your door for free.
No, they don't. You can watch all the cool 30 for 30s, though.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. I like those. I do watch the NLL on there, but I'm one of 7 that watches the NLL games on there. But it's not cheap either. It's not cheap at all. So, yeah, that's if you want to watch that game. What's your best bet?
All right,
this week?
last part of the football threesome is the best bet. I'm going to go to the game you mentioned. And while I do like Minnesota, it's still Sam Darnold. Detroit really looked like they
looked like
locked
a
in last
juggernaut.
week, and they're getting 1.5 points. I know it's on the road. Give me the Lions. I'll take that 1.5 points. I think it'll be a close game, but I think Detroit sneaks it out. So I'll pick Detroit as my best bet. Sorry, Kevin O'Connell. We're still friends, I hope.
Paulie, you got one? That Buffalo line's way big. Tennessee's not. They're not great.
They're bad.
They're not great, but they're 9. Are they 9 points bad? Buffalo, I feel like anytime
once
they have
they
a
lost
big
Derrick
number,
Henry, I think Tennessee lost a lot of their mojo.
All right, then I'll just go. I'll take the Chiefs plus a point.
Coming off the bye and getting 1.5 points.
Yeah,
All right, we're
I'll
both
take
taking good road teams getting 1.5 points.
Funny, I'm taking a road team too, and I don't know if this is the best bet of the week for sure, because I haven't watched a ton of football, especially Pittsburgh Steelers football. But give me a rejuvenated Aaron Rodgers with his buddy Devontae Adams.
It's a good number.
Taking on the Steelers in Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football. That line is the Jets -2. I think they can win by more than 2. So I'll take the Jets and the 2
Steelers are 4-2, and they're still Russell Wilson's healthy-ish now.
That's actually bad.
Yes, it is. And Justin Fields is
that just adds controversy to your quarterback situation you didn't need.
Well, and Justin Fields is look, I haven't played great. I think they're 28th in passing or something, but he's I haven't played great, but we've won.
We're 4-2.
We're 4-2. Yeah. That's really all that matters in the NFL, man. The style points don't really matter. But now
Jets need to win.
Mike Tomlin coming back and going, hey, maybe Russell Wilson.
Ironically, the Steelers prepared for Devontae Adams last week when they were playing Las Vegas, and now they prepare for him again playing the Jets this week on the new team.
It's still the Jets, though. I always have a hard time betting with the Jets, but I like that. I like that bet, Paulie. There's nothing wrong with that bet. That's a safe bet, I think.
All right, and that is your football threesome. Brought to you by Hamul Casino. We will be right back. There was one name we didn't bring up. We started the show in our 6 o'clock hour with the discussion of the Padres pitching staff for 2025, possibilities, free agents, in-house options. One name we didn't mention, probably should bring it up. We'll do that when we come back here on 97.3 The Fan. The reviews are in. Our football threesome is a hit. I mean, I'm assuming. I haven't seen any actual reviews. This segment of Ben and Woods is brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings. Buffalo Wild Wings is football, and B-Dubs is kicking off football season with 2 limited-time sauces. Try their new Buffalo Bacon Sauce for bold notes of smoky bacon, or get the fan-favorite hot barbecue before it's gone. Try them at your local B-Dubs, or order now for takeout and delivery with Buffalo Wild Wings Go. So you're all baseball still today. 2 games, 2:08.
Come on.
5:08. It's American League first, and then National League tonight. You could really have both series be comfortably in hand at the end of the day. If it's 3-0 Yankees and 3-1 Dodgers, don't see either of those teams coming back. So feels pretty must win without being eliminated for both the Guardians and the Mets today.
Yeah.
I think one of them gets a win. I don't know which one, but I think one of them gets a win today. They're not both going to be quick series.
Yamamoto on the bump for the Dodgers against whom?
Quintana.
Good pitcher.
Good. Yeah.
So that could be it. And then it's Matthew Boyd, who was really good
against Clark Schmidt.
Against Clark Schmidt. That one could go. That one could go. The
That's
Guardians.
Why I don't think they're both. I don't think both home teams are losing.
Got to hit
today.
Got to hit.
Someone's got to hit.
Mets had multiple opportunities to bust it last night. They just couldn't do it. Had the right guy at the dish too, and
had some insane defense.
Some insane defense, some really poor defense on the Mets' part as well early. But there was one Pete hit I thought was gone. Wind kept it up, and another one I think Lindor hit deep into the gap. That one didn't fly, and then of course Kike of all people launches one out, and we all saw what Shohei did.
Keep in mind, this was announced, I think, a little over a month ago, but the World Series is scheduled to begin next Friday with Game 1. But if both of the series wrap up in 5 games or less, which is still possible if the Dodgers win the next 2 and the Yankees win 2 of the next 3, the World Series would start instead on Tuesday next week, October 22nd. So we could actually be 5 days away from the start of the World Series if both of these series wrap up in the next couple of days.
That's nuts.
Because then they wouldn't want to have a whole week in between with no games.
Yeah.
So they have a little flexibility built in there. But if either series goes at least 6, then we're waiting until next Friday for Game 1 of the World Series.
I would like to see more baseball. So I would like to see more wins. I'd like to see a win for the Mets today. I'd like to see a win for the Guardians today. I want more baseball games.
You want baseball to be more like soccer, like not just the year round, but you have like the tournaments and other things that you just keep playing.
No, I'm actually fine with the length of the season and the postseason, but once it gets to the postseason, I don't want sweeps and I don't want 4-1s. I want some long, grindy, good baseball games. I still see people tweeting like, I have not watched 1 second. I couldn't do it. My brain is not wired that way. You know, it's just I love the postseason. I love it so much. I'm such a bad parent and husband around this time. I take no care of myself during this. I just prepare for baseball games, whether my team's in it, whether they're not. I love it so much. Last night, Dad, did you throw us grounders? No.
I mean, there was just one
Throw me
game
grounders.
yesterday at 5 o'clock. There's not time during the day before that you can't.
I could, but I'm not
spend
going
some time
to.
with your kids, get a little exercise in, and then still watch the entire game. It's not a 24-hour thing.
It's a state of mind. It's just it's a weird. It is a weird. It's a weird state of mind
if it was the Padres
sit
still in it, I get it. I'm fine.
I don't know why.
For the other games, that really doesn't make any sense.
No, I'm just ready for all day for playoff baseball. It's all I love it. I love it so much. Yes, a long, veiny postseason.
This is something that Hannah should be able to complain about in marriage counseling.
Today, she'll have her opportunity in about an hour and a half.
Right.
Yeah, she can drop the hammer on it.
Therapist is like, well, the Padres are still in it, right?
Nope.
No, actually, they've been eliminated for a week now.
He doesn't even like the teams that are left. He doesn't like the Dodgers. Doesn't like the Mets that much, yet he still is obsessed with it.
I pulled the last night when Hannah said, "Hey, are you going to do something?" I go, "No, I'm working right now. Sorry, this is my job." She just looks at me and like, technically you're right, but you're also an a-hole, technically. I don't know what, man. I love it. 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 I can't do without it. I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to miss a big home run. I don't want to miss a guy dropping a pop fly. I mean, the weirdest stuff happens in playoff baseball, and everybody's tight. Everybody's tight. Everybody's doing things they don't normally do. It just, managers, Walker Buehler last night. Cruising. He's just cruising. He's swing and miss, 15 swing and miss. 4 innings in, Dave's like, you're out. You're out. They talked about it on the broadcast. You never see that in the regular season. If Walker Buehler did that in May, he's cruising out. He's going to go get the top of the
I love
order.
your passion. I still will be able to hop on the Peloton, probably have lunch with my kids.
Can't do it.
And watch the entire game because it doesn't start for another 5 hours.
I'm going to go home. I'm going to sit on my ass. I have marriage counseling. I'm going to do that. But
Are you sure you don't want to skip that today and say, I couldn't? Why couldn't? Well, he had to watch the baseball game. Oh, it was on at the same time? No, it's not for several hours from now.
No, that I can do. I just can't. I don't. When it ends, the depression that sinks in for me is so palpable. It's just so like, oh God. I love everything about the season, man. I love it. 162 plus spring training plus playoffs. I can't get enough. It's my greatest, outside of my family, it's my greatest love is baseball.
All right, there was one name we didn't bring up in our Padres pitching discussion, and it definitely is worth mentioning again. We'll get to that right after our last check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
This traffic report is driven by Kearney Mesa Volkswagen. Find your ultimate VW at KearneyMesaVolkswagen.com. Still a few things wrapping up our morning drive, guys. One of them is this collision on the Palomar Airport Road off-ramp, southbound 5 coastline. Also, northbound side of the 163 past Friars Road, there is a stalled vehicle. Tow truck is trying to get that out of middle lanes. And Cordell and Cordell traffic cam shows a bicycle on the transition ramp northbound 805 at the West 52 connector. Trick or treat yourself to the 2024 Volkswagen Jetta S for just $197 per month. This Halloween, drive home in style without frightening your wallet. Kearney Mesa Volkswagen is locally and veteran-owned. For more details about this offer, head to KearneyMesaVolkswagen.com. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Wood, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
So it was pointed out last hour by Eno Sarris that the Padres are still pretty up against it when it comes to the 2025 competitive balance tax, luxury tax threshold with the current payroll, assuming the arbitration eligible players get about what you figure they're going to get, and they don't, remove any players from their roster that are eligible to be on the team next year. The Padres are already either, just a few million under to a couple of million over, depending on which calculations you use. We don't know what the payroll is going to be like. We don't know if the Padres are willing to go over, but, assuming that there is at least some budgetary responsibility, and you're trying to fill out a pitching rotation. We talked about some of the free agent options that were out there. Liked Alex Cobb as like a possibility. Justin Verlander on a one-year rental. Pivetta was one he really liked, but probably is going to be more of a multi-year deal guy. The one name we didn't bring up, we talked about him last week. We don't know what the plan is for him in Japan, is Roki Sasaki. Boy, does he work under a number of different...
Changes
different perspectives, because not only is he a potential ace pitcher, but he is one that does not really impact your luxury tax at all. He would give him your international signing bonus, which doesn't have anything to do with your luxury tax, and then you would pay him essentially the minimum. And so you could have potentially an all-star without even a smidge really hurting your luxury tax number. I mean, he's such a game changer if he comes over. It goes without saying that if he ends up leaving Japan and coming to the United States, the Padres, like just about every other team, will be all in on Roki Sasaki, and whoever gets him, it can completely change the course of their 2025 season. Fair?
Yeah, I'm bracing myself. So,
well,
yeah.
And he could go to the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah.
Very easily. Or the Giants.
Oh, yeah.
Or the Yankees.
Oh, yeah.
Red Sox. Anywhere.
Chicago.
But the Padres do have a couple of, advantages when it comes to trying to sign him.
He wore a Padres shirt, yes. And he knows you.
He loves you.
AJ Preller learned Japanese.
And AJ Preller learned Japanese.
Ben loves that stat.
I'm gonna dig a hole for myself if he goes to LA. I mean, just dig a hole in the backyard. Where's Woodsy? He's in the hole. That's what I mean. That's where
I don't think it makes the
Padres
Padres
in a hole, Paulie, in the backyard. Just
overwhelming favorites.
Was he coming to work today? Nope. He's in his hole.
But between the West Coast location, between Yu Darvish, having other Japanese players on the team, it's not The Padres aren't in a bad position.
No.
If that option does materialize.
Yeah, I mean, and I need to do a little refresher course on the luxury tax and how it all works and what penalties and what tiers and all that. It as soon as you talk about it, it really leaves my brain once we get the season underway. And then, but this is that time of year where you want to be well versed in it. I'm not great at it, but again, you can't. It's foolish to speculate on what your team's going to do until you really know their intentions.
But we will never know the Padres' intentions. They
only-
don't talk about their intentions.
the only
They don't
way-
talk about the luxury tax.
The only way you can know their intentions is to see what they do.
Right.
Like you have to assume their
So
intentions.
we now know. If let's have this. Okay, let's turn the clock back 9-10 months to before the season. Going, what do you think the Padres' payroll is going to be, Woods? I mean, are they going to try to, cut salary, obviously? How much are they going to cut? Well, they can't possibly cut so much as to get under the luxury tax. Now, knowing what we know, it's a very obvious answer. The Padres wanted to reset their luxury tax, and they took the steps necessary to shed over $90 million in payroll to do so. But they never said that beforehand. We only know that now because of where their payroll ended at the end of the season. I mean, I guess you could say, no, we really weren't trying to get under the luxury tax. It just... these are just the players we wanted, and that's how it worked out. I'd be very skeptical. I think they did it on purpose, and they were very successful in doing it.
But you say that when we would have Peter on, we would ask him, are you comfortable going over the luxury tax? And he would say, yes, I'll get players as needed. Like he would say it. It's a different regime now. We don't really know what they're planning on doing. And I guess you can only judge them by their actions.
We also don't know whether getting under the luxury tax was more of a financial consideration for ownership or more of a competitive balance. Like, we don't want to lose any more draft picks. We don't want to lose any more international money. We cannot sustain the other penalties if we want to keep putting a consistent good roster on the field in the future. Both of those are considerations, but the Padres have never really shed any light as to their motivations behind what they do when it comes to their payroll level.
Well, and the interesting thing is if there's two sides, right, and you all want to picture everyone working on the same page and for the ultimate goal, but there are two sides. There's ownership, and then there's general manager, president of baseball ops. Like there's a directive that needs to be handed down. The directive that was handed down last year was, this is what we're going to do. Now, again, these are all private meetings, but this is what we're going to do. You're going to have to trade Soto. Let's get max return. That worked out pretty well. So AJ did such a good job this year. Such a good job. Wouldn't they then go, all right, well, let's see if you can do it again. You know what I mean? And
I don't think they're going to ask him to shed another $90 million.
$90 million. No, I don't think it's going to be $90 million.
This offseason.
But can't you see somebody saying, hey, man, we have ultimate faith in you. We trust you can get it done. Remember the meeting in Moneyball when he's sitting in there? He's like, you got to give me more. He's like, I can't. I'm not giving you more. So I trust you to put a competitive team on the field. Is that A.J. Preller's lot in life now based on, being spendy early, but then really putting his best team together when under the gun of having to cut all that salary? And he did it. He did the job. So now what are they? They're not going to ask for, hey, can you do less? Do more. Get better players. Get this, get that. And you can see it playing out that way. But
I do feel it increases the possibility of a Dylan Cease trade because of not only the fact that the long-term contract is questionable. The last year of the deal, this is your one chance to get value for him. You could avoid perhaps an $18 million or whatever arbitration figure and sign a couple of other guys to fill those holes, and you maybe get some young pitching as well. There is an argument to be made. It's hard to say that the Padres could be better without Dylan Cease than they were this year with him.
No doubt. He was a horse.
But we also said it's hard to say the Padres could be better without Juan Soto than they were without him. And they were.
They were.
Better without Juan Soto.
No question.
Record-wise, it was quite clear. They were 11 games better without Juan Soto than they were with him.
Crazy, man. I never would have thought it. Never.
All right, we will be back tomorrow on a Friday to wrap up your work week starting at 6 a.m. Appreciate everybody who spent the last 4 hours with us on the radio, on the app, on YouTube, wherever it was. Annie and Elston are coming up next. For Paul Reindl and Stephen Woods, I'm Ben Higgins. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday from all of us here at San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. So long, everybody.